Jackson or Unbossed with Nina Turner, which is so sad. I had nothing to do.
Oh my god. Yeah, those are two really cool people
with it.
But I guess they're losing their shows. Nina Turner, as far as I understand, will supposedly still be on other TYT network shows, and I'm guessing JR too. JR's been with TYT since the founding. The lost 2 shows with black hosts, one show with a trans host. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't have anything to do with it. But I did want to just mention that, yes, there has been a lot of discussion about comments that the main hosts of TYT, that being Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, have made about trans people. And I want to state for the record, I don't agree with them. And I think they're wrong. And the whole thing makes me sad.
So one of the things that Cenk and Anna said and reaffirmed was that people are allowed to disagree. They've been trying to portray an atmosphere where, you know, so in other words, if there's reprisals, if if Francesca ends up getting fired or her show gets eliminated, right, it's gonna beg some questions, right? Because this is the thing, is like they say that they're okay with disagreement, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to put that to a test. Yeah, the free speech Discord. Wait, Unwatched is one of the watch list. Yeah.
That's what you're going to get from me right now. That's all you're going to get. If you want to listen to more of what I had to say, become a patron.
That's one way to deal with drama. Is put it behind a paywall.
I don't sling mud.
I mean, obviously, you know, that there's a difference between that and publicly, publicly stating your. I mean, this is a public statement of disagreement, but as far as like expounding on it, why I disagree, what I disagree with, etc., that's going to be
to get clicks. That's just not how I roll. That's why, again, not a lot of subscribers. But I also don't sling mud because I respect people. I want to work with people. And I still have faith that TYT can be a good place and is a good place. But if you want to know what side I stand on, I stand with trans people. I stand with the most marginalized. And I think it is incumbent upon all of us to do that, not for just their liberation, but for all of our liberation. Okay. And this is not, we're not playing like tradesies and swapskis with like.
Yeah, a lot of people feel, a lot of trans people feel thrown under the bus, especially trans people that, I mean, TYT had a decent sized trans audience, and I'm sure there's some trans people that are still there. At least there's people in my comments claiming to be trans people and claiming not to have a problem with anything that Anna says. And like, at this point, right, it takes a certain degree of self-hate to be okay with like the likes of Jesse Singal, right?
Like true liberation. And again, as I said,
the kind of self-hate that you don't really see even in like Vosh's community. You see this in Destiny's community, right? In fact, that is where a lot of the support for Anna has come from. I've been told a certain kid, Wet Napkin, came out hard in support of Anna Kasparian, obviously Chud Logic as well, and I would guess Destiny as well, although like Destiny just like doesn't exist to me since we can't watch him on Twitch. He just oh, sorry Destiny, you're not that interesting.
On Friday, if anything,
but I'm sure somebody in chat can confirm that.
Proves that we are all in the same muck and soup. It's the Supreme Court screwing over everybody. So nobody gets a ticket out. Everybody has to deal with fascism.
So yeah, in other words, like taking in issues that you feel like are inconvenient, and you're going to hear this from the Majority Report too, right? And trying to kind of push them by the wayside, telling marginalized people to shut up and sit down. right? And essentially what you're getting from Jink and Anna, since trans people didn't start the fight on sports, right? Sporting bodies, governing bodies, made the decision, many of them like decades ago, that not only was it fair for trans people to participate, right? It'd be unfair to not allow trans people to participate. And the people that are challenging, you know, the way that things work, the way that things have worked for decades, and like, might I remind you that like there has been no domination of any field. There has been no inability for cis women to participate meaningfully. You know, all this stuff about like, you know, the magic of the Y chromosome, right? Of trans women even on HRT being able to outperform like cis women to some ridiculous degree. Like that has not manifested, right? It's actually, there's so many barriers to trans people participating in sports at all, right? That you don't have a lot of trans athletes, you know, on the professional level, right? And you know, it's really hard for trans people to participate without getting, because even if you don't get outright discriminated against, you get a lot of side eye from the coaches, from other players, right? And you probably get some support too, right? There's plenty of people involved in almost every sport there is that will support you know, trans people, trans athletes, right? But you know, it's not easy. It can't be easy. It's something that like I was, you know, competitive at a certain sport that I just never pursued. And particularly because Joe Rogan and people like that were making a business out of demonizing like trans women that participated in my sport. So I just said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's you know, I would like to see, you know, I would like to, you know, do some amateur fights or something like that, right? But it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm just gonna coach wine moms instead, which actually it's really fun. I love coaching wine moms. You gotta unlock that inner rock star, right? You gotta give somebody like the confidence that they can actually do something that they feel really uncomfortable doing at first. Because believe it or not, it's really hard. It's kind of hard to learn to punch and kick, to do it correctly, to feel confident about it, to feel like you know what you're doing. It's not super easy, but it's an accomplishment that really is quite fulfilling to a lot of people that I've had the good fortune of being able to teach. But yeah, like no competition for me, thank you. Like I would rather not, you know, be. I don't even know. Like I mean, they since there's so few trans athletes, the few that exist get obsessed about by people like Rogan. By TERFs, right? You saw, if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen a post I did about the British women's angling team, and there was one trans girl on that team, and it caused like a good portion of the team to resign. They were like, "We've got this unfair advantage. How can we possibly?" It's fishing. It's fishing, right? The TERFs think that trans women have a just insurmountable advantage, biological advantage in fishing. I think that's pretty weird, right? And I'd love to catch TERFs being weird and point that out, because you know that like we're getting, you know, a lot of right-wing social media calling us weird. I think that they're the ones that are out of line here.
So if you think that we can sacrifice some people or some issues in order to get ahead, you are wrong. I have a lot of respect, I have a lot of love, but I have a lot of disagreement. So that's what I'm bitching about. I'm very sad, and I am, you know, yeah, I'm sad. I'm in a moment. I'm having a moment. Still premenstrual. I'm gonna be premenstrual for a really long time. Anyway, that is me, and she.
Okay, so there we have it from Francesca Fiorentini, who like I love her show. I don't really watch. I have not watched a lot of TYT Network in a long time, but I feel like hers was one of the last ones I was watching. All transphobia is rooted in misogyny. That's why Amy Schneider got a ton of crap. I've never been an athlete, nor have I ever been interested in sports, but hatred against trans athletes is too obvious. Transphobes don't care about cis female athletes until transphobe. Yeah, exactly. And like so many of the people that are beating their chests over caring about, you know, women's sports, like they don't care about women's sports outside of gatekeeping trans people. I have no idea, Shakespeare, about we're talking about Francesca? I saw an article out of Australia about transphobes being upset about trans women playing billiards. Yo! Oh my god, that needs to... yes, hey, if you find anything that needs to, that you want to pass by my eyes, all right? The best place to do it is in stream suggestions. I try to, even if I do not cover everything that's in there, I do look at everything that's in there, and that is amazing. Billiards. Trans women are too overpowered. Habituation room. Oh, okay. That's what we're talking about. The Discord. With a punishing and competitive 4-round unanimous decision over Alex Gutierrez in June 8th, Manuel ran his professional record up to 3-0. On March 22nd, he pounded Ye Huin to win his second career fight in a 4-round decision. They do the same with veterans in June. Why do LGBT people get a whole month? What about veterans? Well, what's weird is that... Okay, let's be real. When corporations do Pride events, it's not for our benefit. It's for their benefit, right? And they read the room, and they look at the arc of history, and they say, it's good for our corporate image to be seen as caring about trans people, right? So, like, most of Pride is not for the consumption of anybody outside of the trans community. The reason that people are seeing Pride stuff is because those corporations, like, are kind of chasing trans people's clout, right? And there's two ways of chasing clout, as I always say. You can, you know, kiss. You can, you know, basically be positive towards somebody, right? And you see a lot of the Vosh orbiters, for instance, positive towards Vosh. Destiny orbiters generally agreeing with Destiny, right? That's how that kind of works, right? There could be a negative kind of call-out chasing too when somebody is picking a fight with somebody, mainly because of their platform and that being perceived as fighting with them, especially if there's a large audience that is negative towards those people, right? So, you know, they're essentially going for, like, H3. There's a good example. You see all the crap that H3 gets on YouTube. You see all the crap that iDubbbz gets on YouTube. That is essentially not necessarily haters, right? Because that's the assumption, is that, like, oh, they really hate H3. No, not necessarily. A lot of it's clout chasing, and they're going after the fallen fans of H3, people who used to be fans of H3 and for whatever reason do not like H3 anymore. Liked on YouTube. Thank you so much, Adrian. Yeah, thank you for leaving that like. Yeah, I would strongly encourage you to hit that like button on YouTube. It is one of the only ways to let the algorithm know that you're appreciating and liking the stream, and they actually take that into consideration in terms of how many people see that this was a video, even after the fact. So yeah, you're getting ads. Okay, so that's very good of you to say, though. That's very good of you to say that you're getting ads. I don't love the fact that you're getting ads, right? But I do love the fact that I know when the ads are coming, and they're coming like at the 5 after 30 minutes and the 5 of the hour, right? And so now I know when to tell you that the bottom of the hour is back on. Is it though? It feels like it's 5 minutes off. Am I right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Sometime around the bottom of the hour, you're going to experience an ad break, which is not ideal for your viewing experience, I know. And there are several ways that you can go about trying to improve your viewing experience. Like I said, one is if you got Amazon Prime and you can hook that up to Twitch, you get a free sub that you can give to the streamer of your choice. Hopefully that's me. Second way is to spend $5 or $6 if you're on iPhone on a sub for yourself. Give yourself a little gift. Get yourself out of those ads. It is $5 a month. And the third way is if you're lucky. If you're lucky and you're chatting, somebody in chat that's giving away gift subs might see you and they might choose to take pity upon your non-Persona 2 avatar having soul. And that is another way to get out of the ads. So let's okay, this is a weird video. Are you ready?
You're keeping it in your
No, I'm not.
I'm our cat.
And we're gonna get to MR right after this. Yeah, he watched. I don't know anything about Hamza, but did you miss the TYT? No, we haven't even gotten into it really. So this is a, what do I want to call this? This is like a conversation between neighbors, and this neighbor that you were seeing has a cat, and that cat likes to roam. Okay. And the cat roamed into the neighbor filming the neighbor speaking's yard. And the neighbor that we're seeing in front of us doesn't like that, so.
You understand?
Our cat.
I'm not even in my yard right now. What am I doing? The gate's open.
Wait, was that an Amogus tattoo? Do. I would play the actual thing, but I always get copyright struck when I do. Do you see that? Look at how good my eyes are, though. Like, I'm not gonna, it's just like, it's for Amogus, like, right? Anything that's Among Us, like, I just have, like, I can always see it. You're never gonna hide an Among Us from me. Even if something looks like an Among Us and it's not an Among Us, I will see it. I will see it, I will notice it. He's got this very sus tattoo, so.
The gate's open.
Who is the imposter in this video?
You're unreasonable people. You're holding our cat.
How? I'm not even in there. I want you to explain how.
If you would go in your yard and say, Mercury, go home. Don't come in our yard anymore.
She
They
will not
want you
listen.
to...
She's a cat. She doesn't speak English.
Oh, really?
That's the word of the day. She's a cat, she doesn't speak English.
This doesn't mean go home?
No.
Huh?
Hand signals don't mean anything. It's a cat, dude.
Really? Okay.
Pirate Amogus tattoo, freeze frame, caught in 4K by Irene Geller.
All right. Well, we'll have the police department figure
We're gonna call the police.
it out.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Great idea.
All right. Listen. No, so the cat doesn't eat and drink anything over there, right?
No.
Oh, no, never. Right? No, never.
Oh my god, really? This guy dressed in a weasel suit, yeah.
No.
No, never.
Never. Yeah, never.
Yeah, you cat pervert.
Really? Cat pervert. Hey 911, our cat keeps going into our neighbor's yard. Hello? Hello? Hello, cat pervs. Yeah, we got the cat pervert. He caught in 4K being sus by feeding somebody's cat, allegedly.
I've done nothing.
Oh my god. That's the question though, is why did it escalate to this point? He didn't even feed the cat. Why did it escalate? Like, look. Now, tell me if you think that I got tinfoil on here, right? Tell me if you think that I'm going too far in this. But I have a sneaking suspicion that this guy's just default accusation of the person holding the camera being a Voshite, right? Having some Voshite takes when it comes to animals and right? I feel like, is that what you get when you normalize calling a marginalized group of people like groomers? Is that what you get when you call everybody who doesn't agree with you on your transphobia a groomer? And you go to the Lego store and they got little rainbow pins and you're like, you're grooming, this is grooming with you got the rainbow pin on, that's grooming, right? Does anybody else feel like it has something to that maybe this guy wouldn't be like, I don't know what his political alignment is, although I can guess. Ask him about Pizzagate. That's what what do you think about the elite and you think the elite are doing with the pizza thing? What's up with that? I bet he would have some choice ideas. I don't know though. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I don't know this, but you know, what is that book called? The Conspiratorial Mind or something?
Nothing to bring the cat. I've done nothing to bring the.
Got him. Cat pervert. He's just using the cat as an excuse. It seems he hates his neighbor. That's such a weird. Well, I mean, I guess we understand why the camera went on.
This dude's lost. Pervert.
Are they all cat perverts? The whole family. I was told there would be cats, right? The whole family. His wife is regretting marrying this man. Not confirmed, but worth keeping in mind. Wow, when we're talking about couples in Bad Empanada, that makes a lot of sense.
Dude, he's lost it. He's lost it.
Oh no, that was about the shark in Bad Empanada. Oh my god.
He's lost it.
It's our cat.
He's lost it. He's lost it.
Oh, got the salute.
Oh no.
There's no way that this was the first altercation. I agree, John M.
On my property.
Then we're calling the police because you're harboring our cat.
You're harboring our cat.
Harboring a cat.
Harboring our cat.
Harboring a cat. Don't harbor the cat. Wait, that's the weirdest thing in the world, right? It makes it sound like the cat's trying to get away from this guy and that he's afraid that this guy is like providing a safe place for the cat. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to, oh my God, Vightingale. Likes up to 27. Yeah, like I said, clicking that like button is the only way that you can like directly tell the algorithm what to do. You don't have a lot of say in terms of the algorithm, right? Clicking on the videos, watching the videos, giving the videos good watch time, you know, watching, you know, like, right, those are signs to YouTube that this is a good video and that more people should see it. But as far as directly giving that feedback, right, the like button is that's where it really shines. Park your boat, the pirate cats will show you no mercy. But like, it makes me feel like I'm worried about this cat now. Am I on a limb here? Am I taking this too far? Am I being ridiculous? Am I being weird in thinking that this might not be a great environment for a cat? If you accuse your next door neighbor of harboring your cat, it's like you're calling your cat a fugitive, right? Is this like the feline fugitive? Isn't that a movie?
Is that a crime? What was
fugitive, right?
Cat pervert.
It's the one-armed man, but there really was a one-armed man. That's all I know about the fugitive, right?
Cat Pxrvert?
Yeah,
what crime is that? What crime is that?
You know what? There's a crime about you harboring my cat.
What crime is that?
Against the law.
What?
The cat is making her choice of where she wants to be. Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. If this cat is constantly in the neighbor's yard, there's a reason, and I don't think it's because like the neighbors are giving the cat like treats. That's what he seems to be implying, though. That's what this guy's. I don't think the cat likes. I wouldn't like him either. Can you imagine being a cat and living with this guy? Go have another beer.
Crime is that?
It's called harboring an animal.
Harboring an animal. Yeah, that's very serious crime there.
I can understand being angry if my cat was in your yard. You're angry because your cat.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I could understand being mad if my cat was in your yard, but the fact is, sir, your cat is in my yard, and I'm not angry, but you are. What is up with that?
Cat is in my yard.
You're making things a lot worse.
You're making things a lot worse. God, like the entitlement just oozes off of this guy.
Right? You could just send my cat home.
Nope.
Send your cat home, like in the mail?
No, I can't.
But just send the cat home. Okay.
You're keeping it in your
No,
yard.
I'm not.
And it's our cat.
You understand?
Our cat.
I'm not even in my yard right now. What am I doing? The gate's open.
Come on. Calm down.
Hard.
You're unreasonable people. You're holding our cat.
Wait, wasn't that was the excuse that Anna Kasparian gave for the oh my god, what the dog Karen? What was that? Amy Cooper, right? Remember Amy Cooper, the dog Karen, the Karen that wants to walk her dog in the one part of the park, the forbidden fruit of the park, the part of the park where you're not supposed to take your dogs because it's for bird watching. And when somebody tells her, "Hey, could you not walk your dog in the bird watching area of the park?" Amy has Amy calls 911 and makes sure to tell them that it is a black male that is scaring her, right? And just like this histrionic call to 911 that seems to be like, you're trying to get this guy hurt. And then but Anna's excuse was that the thing that she said that she found out about that changed her mind about Amy Cooper, right, is that supposedly the bird watcher called the dog. Supposedly the bird watcher coaxed the dog. Was like, "Here, Fido." I don't know. Because Amy Cooper is holding the dog up by the leash and the dog is not breathing. The dog's like choking on its collar, right? So there's kind of a reason that you might worry about that dog, that you might want to get that dog to safety, right? There's kind of a reason for that. But yeah, that was Anna's excuse, right? Was that this guy was coaxing her dog. What would you do? Well, obviously you got to call 911. If you walk down the street and somebody's coaxing your dog, you gotta call 911 immediately and let them know. Make sure to mention the race of the person doing it too, right? That's but yeah, somehow Anna felt that Amy Cooper got the raw deal from that situation. And wow. Well, with that, let's get to the content that I like I said, like this, I had to find this for you, right? This is in the fun half, and it's in, I had to track it down, but they did in fact respond. And after Sam got back from vacation, and that's kind of what we wanted to see, right? Obviously, some people were not happy with the majority report's response. I mean, Emma has talked about what's going on a lot, and Matt, but in terms of having Sam like have his say on what was going on with TYT, we did have a caller that called into that I talked to on Discord, right? That had talked to Sam and was worried that Sam wasn't taking this seriously enough. Now, what was frustrating about this is that the caller, Tuna John, longtime majority report caller, was right. Sam did not want to believe that TYT was taking a serious turn to the right, and that they were in essence unreachable, right? From Sam's perspective, like, he does not watch every piece of content, especially other people's content. He's a busy guy, but he did eventually, because of the degree of which, we're not just talking about one little thing. we're talking about a lot at this point. We're talking about doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, and just basically vice signaling towards the TERFs and the transphobes. YouTuber Jonah, said he called into the show to ask Sam about debate advice. Not sure. Yeah.
It is that whole thing of like, oh, trans people are really militant. Like,
Also, helping people in the future. But it's really hard. I mean, it's hard to make that argument in this era. I mean, there's no doubt. But I really appreciate
Thank you for
the call.
sharing that story.
I hope you're right. All right, left is best. Have a good day.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and that's the difference between like the majority report chat and the TYT chat. In the TYT chat, you will see some people minimizing what Anna and Jink are doing. You will see some people actually agreeing with what Anna and Jink are saying. The majority report chat is a very different environment.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
it is that whole thing of like, oh, trans people are really militant. Like, you're the one with the sudden opinions about trans athletes, you weirdo.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, so they just got off a call with a trans caller.
I mean, it's quite obvious what's going on in our society today. And people should know that. I mean, and particularly like when we're
The caller's friend unalived herself. Yeah, and I did watch that, and there's like kind of a reason.
places where either identify as allies
Look, I don't have a great chance of this VOD staying monetized, but
or should be allies. Like, none of these issues are seen in a narrow
yeah, there's a lot of support. There's a lot of love for the caller.
perspective. And I guess to a certain extent, I'm talking specifically about TYT. A lot of stuff went down. I'm still sort of catching up on this. The last I had heard was, or read was like Anna's tweet, like, I don't know, it was like 2 months ago or something, or whatever that was.
But I mean, it's a issue. It's a danger that unfortunately a lot of trans people face, right?
And let me, be clear on a couple of things.
And giving trans people access to care is our goal. In terms of making it a little bit easier for trans people, right?
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Emma obviously came from TYT. She has a different set of
I
relations.
always forget that she used to be in TYT. Wait, what's the name of the Bad Empanada person? Is it Kamza? The person that the red pillar that BE watched?
Relationships over there. I don't really make a lot of friends in this business, in part because I'm just a standoffish person. But also part of it is that, like, when I was in comedy, there was always this story that I had read about this group of comedians in the God, I can't remember what the name of this crew of comedians was called at the time, but Alexi Sales is one of them. He wasn't even one of the better comedians in my estimation of that crew, like Rowan Atkinson and I don't know, a bunch of others like there, but in the late 80s. But he had this thing where he said, like, the worst thing about success is that you become friends with Phil Collins and then you can't really be honest about how bad his music is. You can't make fun of his music. And I know it's a weird thing, a weird quote to remember for over 35 years. But that has stuck with me. So when people like say like, you're not talking about Anna or Jank or this and that because of friendships. I can assure you that is not the case. I mean, I have nothing against Anna, but I've never been friends with her. Like, I haven't been non-friends with her. Like, I think I've spoken to her once, maybe. I don't know, in person. For me, the issue is this. Why what they're doing is wrong. And I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. But with this, let me just put it in contrast to like why I do this and why I think everybody here does this. We do this here because of the politics first. And then, like, I don't know what the percentage is, but I realize, like, we have to be entertaining, and I like being entertaining, and it's fun in that regard, and this and that, and you can't be just, and I don't even...
Wait, does anybody know who Alexei Sales is? That's the bathrobe man, I keep forgetting their name, though. Cosma? Anna Kasparian told Benny that she started reading Singal's articles and Blash over a year ago, reading it and agreeing with it. That fits the timeline perfectly. Yo, so like Alexei Sale, yeah, was on the Young Ones. That's who it is. I know this person. This was the landlord, one of the coolest landlords in all of fictional, stories, right? The owner of the property that was occupied by the Young Ones in the Young Ones, and I believe, like he was Russian. That's like literally all I remember about him. But I feel like he liked to party, right? The character. But anyway, yeah, Alexei Sales, and wait, Rowan Atkinson, is that Mr. Bean? The Young Ones is really funny. Like, right? I don't like watch a lot of British shows, or haven't watched a lot of British shows. I need to update the sub goal. Oh my god, thank you, Pxrvert. You are so right about that. I'm so bad at this. I have a lot on my mind right now, Chad. I'll let you know a little bit after we watch this, what's going on with me. But I do have a major upcoming life change that I'll tell you about in a second. There we go. New sub goal.
Have the mental capacity to just be doing, like, 3 hours of dry interview.
Wait, I love that idea, right? So, the bad thing about the drawback to being famous is that you know Phil Collins now, and so you can't make fun of Phil Collins, right? Here's the thing, though, right? Phil Collins' music isn't bad. It's overplayed. Right? Maybe? I don't know. Look, I don't usually agree with American, wait, what's the dude's name from American, like, I can't remember the dude's name. The Axe guy. He played he played, yeah, a bunch of different people, I guess, on the Young Ones. Why am I not remembering this dude's name? Christian Bale is the actor, right? But who is the character? 'Cause that's what people usually... Right, the one thing that they got right was that Phil Collins' music is pretty good. I don't know. But if I was around at the time, I probably wouldn't like it, right? Because like that's what I understand about it, is it was like pervasive. Like it was like way too popular. And that's why people don't like Phil Collins. Oh yeah, the Vightingale, were you not here the other day when I read the letter out, the resignation letter? Yeah. The letter was powerful, right? So if you haven't read it yet, it's in our Discord. Go to general and scroll up just a little bit. I think that Patrick Bateman, thank you. I couldn't remember his name, right? Patrick Bateman was right about Phil Collins, but No, like, look, if you don't like Phil Collins, like, I totally understand, and I totally get this reference, right? That everybody who was around in the '80s apparently hates Phil Collins. I only heard like Coming in the Air Tonight and stuff when they would put it in soundtracks, right? So like, I don't have that overexposure to Phil Collins that maybe Sam does, right? And so I don't mind Phil Collins. Wait, the other thing about Phil Collins is that he's from Genesis, and Genesis used to be a lot more experimental back in the day, and there was like Peter Gabriel was in Genesis, right? And so I guess maybe old Genesis fans, like, right, they probably don't like the 80s Phil Collins pop sound. I heard that you talked about it. Yeah, absolutely. I was wanting to Vightingale, if you've got, like, I don't want to put you on the spot, okay? But I put out the invitation to any of the mods that were resigning, that if they wanted to come on and talk more about it on stream, that I would let them do that. And that goes out to you too. But like I totally know what it's like, when a streamer's like, hey, come on my Discord and talk, right? Sometimes you're not ready or in the right place, or you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, all of a sudden, right? So, but yeah, let me know if you're interested in that, and maybe after watching this, you can come on and talk. Also, Adrian, another mod who resigned. Yeah, any of you who were with that brave cohort of TYT mods that, and also like that letter. I might actually read the letter again, because it, like, I know it's a resignation letter. It's like, oh, NCC, you're gonna read a resignation letter to us? Trust me, they struck a chord with that letter, right? I don't think anyone's encapsulated how it feels to be, somebody who has at least thought that TYT, was fighting on the right side of things, and to get, kind of. How many mods did TYT have before? I don't know how many mods TYT has. It's a pretty big streams though, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot. And they do stream on Twitch, and if I don't know if I'm doing something wrong in the Discord. Oh, you can only see 3 channels. That is because you are in what's called the airlock, right? So just like is it like Amogus? Is it like Amogus? Oh my god, we got a few people trying to get in here. Here, let me make that happen. Generally, you wait in the airlock until a mod lets you in, but luckily for you, I have mod privileges, so yeah, if you wanna, you have to feed your cat, but will I be on for a while? I'll be on a little shorter tonight. Like I said, I've got some major life-changing things coming up for me, and so I am not sure when I'm going to be streaming next, right? But it's going to be from a location that you might recognize from other content that you're familiar with, right? That's all I can tell you. That's all I can tell you. But yeah, I will definitely get you on sometime, Vightingale, if you want to come on and talk. TYT did not have many mods at all a while back. Chat was, oh yeah, chat used to famously, okay, TYT, I think that the majority report I'm trying to remember who told me this. No, it's Hassan. Actually, Hassan was talking about how TYT has been the punching bag for the right on YouTube for a long time. They were the biggest online news show for a really long time. Obviously, they leaned to the left. Obviously, YouTube did not lean to the left. There's a ton of right-wing people on YouTube, and they were all in TYT's chat, and I think there were bots, and just like, it was just nasty. It was just like gross troll. It was 100% troll spam. You stopped watching TYT a few years ago. They are yeah. Well, I mean, they've gone even more to the right now. Blood Moon. Sam is a Gen Xer with kids. Most TYT watchers are millennials and Zoomers. 10 mods does not sound like a lot for a channel as big. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I don't know, what is a good ratio of mods? I've had like way too many mods before. I've had way too few mods, but I don't know what the good like, right, there should be like a ratio of like mods to chatters. But yeah, 10 for however many chatters TYT has on their main show. That's not very many at all. Oh, you talked to somebody already. Okay, well that's great.
But the point is that what dictates what we do here? And I remember like years and years ago, I would get arguments with a caller like, I shouldn't refer to what we do here as propaganda. Propaganda to me has always been a value neutral term. It is when you have.
Oh my God. I mean, I get what Sam's saying. Technically speaking, he's right? That propaganda doesn't like anything that you do that's like advocacy where you're taking a side is technically propaganda. You're saying something and hoping to have an effect on your audience, hoping to change minds, hoping to advocate for your position, right? That is technically speaking propaganda, right? Usually when we think of propaganda, it's in the context of like covert government propaganda, you know, not hearing the true situation of like a war, for instance, doesn't mean we wouldn't talk to you about it again. Well, yeah, I mean, like, look, no pressure, but TYT chat was a mess before the resignation, and now it's even messier after the resignation. I can imagine. Yeah, the alt-right trolls love to bombard TYT, and they've been doing it for a really long time. Like, I feel like that it's not all humans either. I feel like there's like a decent amount of just bots that sit into, like, I mean, if I'm like remembering like back in the day, obviously, you know, if they have sufficient mods, you're not going to see that as much. You're not going to notice it as much because those chatters will get banned. But for a while, like, didn't TYT have like no mods back in the day? I think they like had none. And that was just like, there's no way, right? That the chat got overwhelmed by trolls. And I swear there were like bots. There were like a ton of bots. Chat would be 5 to 10k people for what? Oh my God. With 1 or 2 mods? That is way too much.
An ideology or a set of issues that you're promoting or whatever it is, you are putting out content in it with an eye.
Wait, did a fake Patrick Bateman come into the chat? They're saying Phil Collins talk American Psycho enters chat. Oh yeah, I was trying not to say the name of that film. You never know what's gonna set off the demonetization train. I don't see like a Patrick Bateman in the chat.
To that, I think like, you know, you could argue that
maybe somebody just defended Phil Collins.
In some way, like all media is propagandistic in the sense that someone's making it.
Alt-right using prototype AI bots to spam left-leaning spaces out of business and existence. TYT will soon face the same fate as MySpace and Twitter.
Editorial decision. Even what they deem to be newsworthy is making an editorial decision. The point being is that we are living in an era right now, which is undeniable, where the right wing, there's been plenty of reporting about this. The Republican Party, the right wing, the conservative movement, all those things, there's not a lot of daylight between any of those things. Specifically was shopping around for something to motivate its fundamentalist base. Mm-hmm. And fall in the wake of gay marriage, not causing typhoons and dogs and cats falling from the sky, they came upon.
He's talking about like the Marriage Equality Act and the fact that there was no, like, the conservatives can't point to, you know, this horrible thing that happened, right? The sanctity of marriage fell by the wayside or anything like that, right? They don't have anything to go at gay marriage with. So they're looking for a replacement, and gay marriage was a wedge issue. What, in, like, are we talking like 2008? Yeah, 2008, 2006, 2000. Jink will be the new MySpace Tom.
Transphobia.
I don't know. I don't think Jink wants to be my friend, though.
And the way that it ended up playing out was in the context of it dovetailed with some schooling issues and CRT and keeping people home from school and this and that, which, not to imply that this is, you know, something that's incredibly novel, but in terms of its growth, it is quite clear what's going on here. There's a concerted effort to do this. You do not spend $50 million in a campaign in Michigan on trans issues unless
God, there's so much stuff that I would love to have time to catch up on.
there is a
People are mentioning Left of the Box's video. Left of the Box is a former TYT host.
concerted effort to do that. So that's one reality that lives, that exists.
You can't be on the left yet. You think an oppressed group of humans can only protest if their oppression is popular.
Right there.
Hillary also threw trans people under the bus in 2007. Oh, 2017.
And
oh God, yeah. Here's the deal with Hillary Clinton. People think that Hillary might be a TERF. I can neither confirm nor deny, but I will say there was an awkward moment in Hillary's show where it felt like Chelsea was trying to hold Hillary back from giving an opinion on yeah, Sandy is Left of the Box. Yeah, that's Sandy. Apparently, due to some issues happening with Twitter, Tucker Carlson's show is in danger. I hope that also happens to Matt Walsh. Brian BTC. Well, so mentally, are you talking about the fact that if you look at the statistics, if you look at the views, right? Now, understand, views on Twitter are not views, right? Elon changed views to be impressions. In other words, if there's like more than 2 seconds where a video appears on the more than half of the video screen appears, like, you know, it's in view of you, right? They count you as a viewer. So if you scrolled past Matt Walsh, if you scrolled past Tucker Carlson's video, and you didn't scroll fast enough, you're considered one of those views, right? So they're worthless views. They're not really views. They're more like impressions. And you know, it's the numbers that they were throwing up for Tucker Carlson looked impressive, but you can't compare them to like YouTube views. You can't compare them to Twitch views. You can't compare them to anything else because they're literally like impressions. Those numbers don't mean a lot. But despite that fact, right? Even with that advantage that you know, any video really on Twitter has, right, in terms of the numbers being fudged, Tucker's views have consistently gone down week by week by week by week. He had Andrew Tate on this week, and maybe that was to try to get some more attention. The audience that he had on Fox News has not found him on Twitter. I don't know if they're on Truth Social or oh, the being trans is more like normalized in Thai society. He asked her basically if it was okay to throw trans people under the bus to win elections, and she agreed. Baron pointed that out, and Twitter views, yeah. It's I mean, it's absolutely true. Like, as somebody who understands the difference, like, right, like my views. Look at my views, for instance, right? If I do a video about Matt Walsh and I get, you know, 1,500 views on it, that might sound pretty good, you know? Okay, cool. 1,500 people watched my Matt Walsh video. But if like 70% of those were Walshies, that's not good. And it's not that I hate dealing with the comments. I actually like, the reason I'm called No Comment Chick is because I'm kind of vicious in the comments when I want to be. I'm not nearly as toxic as I used to be back in the day, but I like destroying people in the comments. It's just a passion that I have. Right. And, you know, so it's not an issue with that. I like, look, I'd rather transphobes be having a go at me than having a go at like other trans people who are not as like, you know, like it rolls right off like water off a duck's back. Right. I seriously do not care if I expect them to, you know, hate me, and, them hating me is, you know, makes me happy. but the bad thing about that is, right, is those are not viewers who are going to like and subscribe. Those are not people I'm going to change their mind or convert, right? They are a lot more likely to dox and harass than they are to like and subscribe. So all it does is puts me at risk, right? When I've got a lot of views that are coming from that side. So like, yeah, not every view is the same. You know, not everybody watches for just as long. If somebody finds my video and they're like, I like the title, I like the thumbnail, let me click on this, and then they watch it for 5 minutes and they're like, not really what I'm looking for here, right? That's not a quality view. That doesn't do me any good. So views in and of themselves even don't do any good. But with Elon and with Twitter, we are talking about impressions. We're not talking like impressions means like you're like scrolling by my video and you see the thumbnail, right? That's an impression. You know, you saw my thumbnail, you didn't click on it. It's an impression. It's not a view. That's what's counting as views for Elon though. So that's a confusion. I think YouTube used to do this. Stream Elements. Is there a Discord chat? Yes, there is, but I don't know if Stream Elements. Here, let me just like do this. People have been asking, and I was being lazy about it. Oh my god, I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy about this. Here, Vightingale, I just I need to just do the invite. I was thinking maybe somebody else might do the invite this time, but I can do the invite. Look at that. Is it the cause of rate limits? No, the rate limits happened because Elon didn't want to pay Google for services that they were providing to Twitter up until this year. And he planned to have alternate, you know, resources that Twitter would use, and they just weren't in place at the time. So it's literally like an unforced error by Elon. It's Elon's inability to keep the lights on. It's Elon being cheap. It's Elon looking to cut corners, cut cost, and as a result, making the platform worse. But yeah, there's the Discord link. I will put this in. Let's put this in YouTube chat as well. TYT has moved to the center. Yeah. Center isn't. They're not center. They're center right. So that's the Discord link. And look, I'll get in bird brains. Like I said, I understand. Like, I don't know. I usually book guests like well in advance, right? So like being like seeing somebody in chat and being like, oh hey, do you want to come on and talk, right? That's like, I know that that people have a lot to do and you're not necessarily in the frame of mind to talk, but I am in bird brains if anybody is interested in, if any TYT mods that resigned are interested in coming on and having a conversation. This isn't going to be a super long stream, but that was something that I wanted to do last time, and I just kind of like I spaced it, I guess.
The other reality may be that in your mind you have an issue with what goes on in women's sports. I'm just going to stipulate.
But yeah, if you're a TYT mod who resigned, jump in the general chat, and hopefully we can find somebody to drag you into the Bird Brains chat, which is the. Anna is now a third member of TYT to go full right wing grift. Yeah. Funny how we've all been reading the same news and TYT never moved. Anna's ego won't let her take an L, so it's time to turn coat. Yeah, so wait, who are we talking about with TYT? We've got Jimmy Dore, We got Dave Rubin. Yeah, Jimmy Dore, Dave Rubin. I feel like there's other ones though, but I don't know if they were maybe always right wing. Like what about like Jordan Sheridan? Wait, maybe I'm mixing. Oh my God, there's two people, Jordan Sheridan, and then I can't remember the other person's name. Yeah, the fourth man. There's been a few, like TYT's like known for spawning right wing careers.
That, like, I'm just going to say that's sincere, that you really care about women's sports, okay? And you have some really
Thank you, John
thoughtful
M.
or even non
Michael Tracy. Michael Tracy is who I was thinking of.
thoughtful ideas about what should happen in women's sports. If you do what we do here, which is what is going to help not immiserate a specific group of people, or what is going to mitigate doing that, or how do we protect those people? Even if you believe deep down, like I feel very strongly about, women's sports,
Right.
which, people can be a little skeptical of that case in some instances, but regardless, I'm sure there's somebody.
Oh yeah, we gotta count Jink as one too. You have the TPUSA video in Discord.
It is incumbent upon you, you don't have to
Oh
speak
my
about it,
God. Groove Dragon.
because
Thank
it
you.
is contributing to
Thank you for the follow, Groove
an
Dragon.
environment that is wreaking violence
Oh my God.
on a
I just remembered when I eat out of my this is like a rice cooker bowl, but doesn't it look like a dog dish? I feel like I always look like I'm eating out of a dog dish here. Hey, what's up, Chromatic Mage? Special late night stream tonight for all the late night heads.
a group of people in our society who have very little political or material protection. And that's just the reality of it. There is no excuse. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm not
You're in the Discord. You're in general.
going to shut up about my opinion.
Yeah.
You,
I'm a good girl, really.
it is incumbent upon you, and it's
Sometimes.
acutely problematic if this is the
So what is Sam saying here, right? He's this is a situation where trans people didn't start the discourse, right? Trans people didn't say, "Hey, we would like to participate in women's sports now." And if you disagree, you're transphobic, right? That's how it's getting portrayed by Anna, by the right wing, by everybody, right? The truth of the matter is the people that put trans people in sports were the governing bodies of those sports. Groups of sports scientists, groups of experts, groups of officials for different, like the International Olympic Committee is one that comes to mind, that looked at the issue without politics, right? Because if they'd looked at it with politics, there would have been no way that they'd let that decision go through, right? Trans people are a small constituency, particularly in organized sports. Obviously, like a lot of people do not understand just the basics of something like HRT. And that's when you get like just absolutely ridiculous takes on, like Trump's take on trans women participating in sports, right? And so, they made these decisions without any politics, ostensibly. And when they looked at the risks versus the benefits, when they looked at the question of fairness, both in the sense of, is it fair for trans people to participate in sports? And is it fair to not let trans people participate in sports, or force trans people to participate in the league of their birth gender, or put trans people in separate leagues, as people are always saying, always positing, forgetting the disgusting historical parallels that has to things that have already been discriminatory league assignments in the past, right? So this is a decision that's been made by the experts, and trans people are not the ones putting it at the forefront. transphobes are. And Anna, you know, like what Sam's saying is, however heartfelt Anna's take might be, and however Anna feels like this might be the best thing for the trans community, right? She is definitely putting her finger on the side of the scale that is dehumanizing trans people, right? And sports is kind of like their entry point, right? It's a weak spot that they found. Now, if you ask Jink, that is the reason that trans people should just give up on this. And if all trans people were like, we don't want to play sports anymore, just put us in whichever league, according to Jink, the right wing would be like, oh, okay then. Oh, I guess I don't hate trans people. No, Jink, no. That's how they get that's how they get their foot in the door. And you're letting them get their foot in the door. Right? He thinks that this is an issue that is trans people choosing to fight on grounds that are less than favorable, when in actuality, trans people are not the ones who started this fight. And so for Anna to pick this time to state her opposition to, and Jink, right, to trans people in sports, it's harmful. It puts trans people in danger. Like everything that they're saying about like that they care about trans people and that's why they don't want us to fight on this issue. They're actually putting us in more danger, not less danger. I'm gonna be eating a sandwich, but you're ready to come on whenever I am. Such an important issue. TYT doing their best to bury the conversation and gloss over the resignations. Oh my God.
Biggest online.
Well, I can give you a chance to finish your sandwich if you want.
Left of center outlet that exists.
It's like I've got like this is a short video, but
yeah. And I will say
also much appreciation to all the mods who stood up and did the right thing here, right? Even if though they're ignoring you, we're not.
That if you do choose to speak about it, which I think I have in particular.
You haven't eaten lunch, you're in the same boat as me.
I will go further and say I think it's incumbent upon you, if you are a part of the left, to be militant in support of trans activists, because I think the excuse that's given is that this is a wedge issue and not conceding the point that somebody might have a different muscle structure if they're a trans person, blah, 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 is helping the right. I don't agree with that at all, actually. I think conceding the framing is much more helpful to the right than being an advocate. I think.
And think about what conceding the framing does, right? Because here's why this issue is particularly bad. Here's why this issue is particularly problematic as one to give in to the right on. Framing trans rights around sports and pivoting to talking about, well, let's talk about the biology though. What's really going on? What's the real biology of it, you know? Right? It leads to this whole biological male, biological female discourse. In other words, you're trans. I know you're a trans woman, but I'm going to make a real strong point here to point out that you're a biological male. You know you're a biological male. You know that it's not fair for biological males to be, right? And this is a great way for cis people, even when they ostensibly support trans rights, to kind of think with two different brains, right? And one brain is like, this person, you know, prefers these pronouns. This person, you know, identifies as X, right? And the other one is like, this person is a biological male. This person is a biological female. In other words, it's almost like they gotta put a mark on us, like lest they forget, lest they gotta think with the two parts of their brains, and one of those parts of their brain is like denying, you know, denying the existence of trans people, right? Denying that trans women are women, denying that trans men are men, denying that some people are non-binary, and shifting it to this discussion your, well, it's a shifting discussion too, right? Because when this gender essentialism manifests in a number of different ways, there is the sometimes they'll talk about reproduction, a uterus, or the lack thereof. Sometimes they'll talk about secondary sex characteristics. Sometimes they'll talk about genitals. They love to talk about genitals, right? Especially the TERFs. The TERFs cannot get enough of genitals. And then sometimes it'll be the chromosomes, right? And you know, people in the know understand, hearing this stuff, that not only are they failing to grok the parallel structure of like, you know, gender and biology or whatever, right? They're also oversimplifying biological sex. They're also putting people in two categories, insisting on putting people in two categories, and not noticing that there are so many aspects of biology when it comes to, you know, sex, and that there it's not scientifically accurate to think of there being two sexes, right? But that's just like, if there's any right-wingers in chat, your minds just got blown, right? No, what are you talking about? It says right here in the science book, in your 6th grade science book, that's where it says it. And you think that's, did they like, you understand how knowledge works, right? You teach a simplified version of whatever the lesson is in a formative education, and then later on, especially if you specialize in the field, let's say that you're into anatomy, physiology, embryology, you learn a little bit about human development, you learn about how the you know, sexual structures actually develop. You're told like a more complicated version of that, and the ultimate truth is more complicated than what you're getting in some, you know, like biology lesson that's like, boys have penis, girls have vagina, you know what I mean? That's not like, it's but we were also inviting the politicization of complex science, right? Because we're talking about the issue of trans people participating in sports. We're talking about physiology. We're talking about anatomy. We're talking about endocrinology. Now, endocrinology is a field that is not understood by a lot of people, like including like medical professionals, unless you specialize in endocrinology. There are a lot of finer points to those the organs and into the physiology of, you know, in endocrinology that just like you have to specialize in it, right? And people do specialize, and that's where we come up with standards of care. That's why we have like the standard of care of how to treat a trans patient who is, you know, at puberty, right? That's where the standard of care of the utilization of puberty blockers comes from. But what we're doing is we're taking that stuff and we're turning it into a political issue, and we're inviting the 6th grade understanding, and that's even me like giving them a little bit more credit than they deserve. Taking the 6th grade understanding of biology and applying that as if that was the end all be all of truth, right? And it's like, that's the limit of your understanding. That's not the limit of the truth. That's not you're missing it, right? And like, you know, that's fine, because you're not an endocrinologist, you're not an embryologist, you're not specializing in one of these fields, right? You're not part of the development of the standard of care, and for good reason, because you don't know about this stuff. But you're inviting that view from nowhere to actually come in, and yeah, if people are loud enough, doctors are going to be intimidated. If people are loud enough, like judges who don't know any better are gonna, you know, weigh in with their own ignorance, right? And just because you're a judge doesn't mean that you really know anything about anything outside of law.
think being an advocate, you're providing a counter narrative for a wedge issue that is being used cynically by the right, not being brought up by the leftist activists or the trans activists. They're responding to it with protection. It's inverted, the focus.
But even that, like, first off, we can see data. We can see data, and we know how this.
So in other words, granting this issue isn't just granting this issue. Granting this issue has a domino effect. Because it puts people in the framework of, you know, transphobic definitions of trans people, right? The arguments that are used for this, the ignorance that's appealed to for this, is ignorance which is particularly useful to a transphobic agenda. If you start thinking about, like, okay, well, trans people, you know, trans women, I mean, they think they're women, but really, I mean, you know what I mean? If you start thinking like that, then you are on the road to absolutely selling out any kind of rights that trans people have. So instead of protecting us from ourselves, like Jake and Anna seem to think that they're doing, they're actually putting us in danger.
Plays in elections.
We saw it in this last midterms. Yeah.
Now, you can show me a poll that says people don't want, trans women to play in women's sports, but I can also show you a poll that 75% of people want gun control. If you want to come and say that this is an electoral issue, come with data.
I can show you a poll that MLK had a 25% approval rating at the time of his death. I mean, we can't just be fighting for what's popular.
Yeah, there's gonna be a VOD, and listen, if you have a sub like you do, Swims with Whales, you can always view those VODs after the fact, right? If you need to see the VOD and you don't have a sub, little secret, okay? Follow me on YouTube. Subscribe to me on YouTube, because the VODs always go up there too. And they're in the live streams playlist.
Popular in the moment, because then you're
oh yeah, Bill Burgess, Ben Burgess just weighed in on this too, right?
Saying that you can't change the framing around
but
that.
Even if you're saying it's pop,
yo, the caps lock thing is giving me like I don't want to say flashbacks because it's not an actual flashback, but
popular in the moment. Like, it's not.
I'm just remembering another chatter who really favored the caps lock button.
It's not resonating from an electoral standpoint. That's why I think that that is
granted too
bullshit.
Much to the anti-trans people.
Exactly.
Right. Like
I think that is a bullshit excuse.
They aren't the post
because you would lead with that. Okay. As much as we heard, like, it's one thing to say, like,
I find it really confusing how frequently people think about other people's genitals in everyday life. Is it unique to transphobes? It's way more common with transphobes, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, thinking about somebody's genitals, it's kind of like, are you their doctor? Are you their lover? You know what I mean? There's very few people that most people want thinking about their genitals, and definitely like transphobes. And look, this doesn't just affect trans people. I read you that story about the girl in, I think it was Idaho, cis like high school athlete, right? And had a parent come up and challenge her standing to play in the sport that she was in. Basically got transvestigated, right? And you know, this was a cis person. So yeah, these absolutely have effects on cis people too. A video, yeah, Ben Burgess's video is called "Don't Cancel Anna Kasparian." Ben Burgess is Anna's friend and was a guest on the Majority Report. Anna and Jink versus Emma Beef must be confusing him. I don't know. You look, like, I don't hate or really strongly dislike anyone. I don't know Ben Burgess, right? So I don't have a feeling like about him as a person, right? But I will say that the guy is a bit of a bad take factory. Yeah.
I don't think
has always been kind of a bad take factory.
Defund the police is the most artful slogan there is.
America is a Christian nation. Religion still plays a big part in
but to harp on it, You're just doing the work of what it turned out to be the corporate Democrats who wanted an excuse for why they were going to lose their elections, as opposed to the reality of the whole thing.
In fact,
And-
that does help corporate Democrats.
Europe, most bathrooms are for everyone to use. There is no specific gender. What about the UK? I feel like the TERFs in the UK always harp on bathrooms.
That's a good point.
And it's very hard for me
Oh
to
yeah, famously, a Tory MP claimed to have had an encounter with a trans woman that we have reason to believe might actually be Sophie from Mars, and made a claim that this trans person said something really weird about drying their hands off on their genitals to her on the way out, and Sophie definitely did not say that, and I don't think any trans it seems like this is something that this Tory MP just lied about. Or wait,
believe.
maybe they're not an MP; they're like a lesser party
Well,
official.
let me put it this way. It's incumbent upon people who do what we do
Ben Burgess is the worst kind of class reductionist. That is one issue with him.
to be able to make that assessment. And that is being I have no idea what's going on over there. I'm not in contact with anybody over there. And, my speculation and conjecture is no more informed, probably less so, than, people in this audience. But in terms of what I think is a responsibility and where a bar lies, while we're at it, in terms of the affirmative
Well, England is in Europe. Other Europeans tend to see the English as the hillbillies of Europe.
action thing, if
I mean, they
anybody, including Jank,
did do
thinks
Brexit.
that, black people are going to get more respect now in colleges because there's no affirmative action, you're insane.
Isn't this wild? Because so much of what TYT has always criticized the Democrats for, like the idea that losing on an issue could be beneficial, right? Or purposely giving up on an issue could be beneficial. It shows that you're reasonable. Oh my God, do you really think the Republicans are going to be like, yo, you're reasonable? You're reasonable. Hey, you know what? We were going to do another January 6th. Try to put Trump in power again. But guess what? We're not going to do it now. Because you're so dang reasonable and we love you. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen.
That's absurd.
Yeah. I mean, to put it as succinctly as possible, there's a finite number of things that we can focus on. Matt says that quite a bit. And I think it's incredibly important in our industry to focus on the thing.
Yeah, Sophie dried her hands off on her pants because there was no paper or dryer, or there was nothing to dry your hands on, right? Pants makes sense as a place to dry your hands. The other word does not.
Things that are going to make sure that there are as much protections as humanly possible for trans people, for marginalized communities in this country. And I believe that focusing on the language of activists that are on the margins and that are incredibly anecdotal is in fact serving a far right agenda.
100%.
Yeah.
And it is really problematic to have the biggest center of left, I don't know where you want to put them or where they would put themselves on some type of spectrum, whatever.
Progressives, home of progressives is the title.
I mean, it's a problem.
Yeah, and it's not
because-
just the two of them that work there, I want to say, right? Like, there are a lot of great people that work in TYT, a lot of great people who are leftists and progressives that
Without
I
doubt.
don't think want to be associated with this.
Right. I mean, but without even getting into the internal politics there, that's for people to suss out themselves. I have always had
Sam is strong here.
both a tremendous amount of respect for people who say, I don't like this work environment and I'm going to do
TYT are SOCDEMs, and SOCDEMs are the moderate wing. Yeah.
whatever I can to reverse it. And if part of that means I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to do it in a public way, I mean, we've begged people to do that during the course of the Iraq.
I mean, I don't even know if I would call them that anymore, right? So many of the issues that they've sold out are like the most obvious issues, right? Even if you're not like a super dyed-in-the-wool progressive, it's pretty easy to say trans women or women, trans men or men. I feel like TYT is having trouble saying that. And it's pretty easy to say that, you know, the unhoused people are not the problem. The state of being homeless is, right? Our commodified housing system is. That's the problem. So demonizing unhoused people even more, associating them with fear and violent crime it's not just like, well, you're just kind of like a little bit right wing on that issue, or you're just like not quite, you're pretty moderate on that issue. No, it's harmful. It's doing the job of the right. Same thing with the bonus holes thing, right? That is libs of TikTok level stuff, right? So the TYT, you know, people have said centrist, people have said center right, people have made a lot of descriptions for what TYT is. But if we're gonna call them centrist, we're gonna really have to invoke some strong fishhook theory here, and say that they are the kind of centrists that are very close to the far right in some very disturbing ways, right? Enabling far right assholes like Jesse Singal. That was a Stalin quote. Okay.
War and whatnot. Certainly there was a ton of that, you know, with the, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. I also understand, because of the nature of the society we live in, that there may be people there who are like, you know, whatever it is, the job that I do here is not terribly easily replicated somewhere else. And this is a time of contraction with these things. And, you know, I've got college loans because you know, I just, you know.
So Sam's being really understanding, right? People are talking about John Adirola. People who obviously don't agree with Jink and Anna, but haven't resigned yet. Look, I'm of two minds here. Like, I would like them to resign. But what Sam is saying is real. It is a job, and in this line of business, a job is hard to come by. Generally, what you've got to do is basically go into business for yourself. And unless you're doing like really well, even sometimes if you're doing, you know, pretty well, things like health insurance are not easy to figure out if you're, you know, just one person. Trans people have college loans, need to pay their bill. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so White Crone is making a point that all these things that we're saying about TYT hosts also apply to trans people. It gets harder to do when progressives crap on us. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, it's the right thing to do. They should do it, and it has been, you know, like a decent amount of time. I don't think you could realistically say, well, I'm going to wait around and see if it gets better. It's not going to get better. But you know, with some people in the network, right? There's like for instance, if you're having a baby or something like that, right? That might be a reason that somebody might have a difficult time moving away from
bought a house or I've got a car payment or whatever it is. I also, you know, have a tremendous amount of like sympathy and understanding for people in that situation. The bottom line is there are, you know, prominent voices that run that network or that project out that network. And it is wrong of them to be playing nuance. And this is, I'm trying to be charitable here, playing nuance with an issue that is so clearly drummed up to inflict pain on people. They're hoping for electoral gain. I don't think.
Yeah, and during a time when trans people are under the gun in so many ways already, right? It's inexcusable.
Don't necessarily get the electoral gain, although it strengthens, you know, if I'm in a red state and I can pass a law, I'm going to stay in office. It's not necessarily going to, you know, impact Joe Biden's reelection. It's not even going to impact like in the purple districts. I think it cuts against them in the purplest district.
It's a real issue in Jink's imagination. So yeah, look, yeah, it cuts against them in the purple districts. It demotivates a constituency that otherwise would be highly motivated to, and probably still will show up in droves to vote for. And I'm not just talking about trans people here. I'm talking about like trans people and people who care about trans people, trans allies. You know, being highly motivated to vote both against the Republicans and for like a more progressive government, albeit, you know, Biden, right? Who has let us down in a lot of ways, but obviously is, but like the other issue about this is that Jink is hypothesizing that keeping trans women out of sports is going to drive a significant amount of people to the polls. It's either going to make people be like, yo, I was going to vote for Biden, but I don't want a trans weightlifter like smashing world records, and like I don't want, you know what I mean? Or like somebody that wasn't going to vote is now going to vote, right? That it just doesn't make sense. It's the numbers aren't there, right?
And standing up for trans rights might get young Gen Z people out more than turning small people on.
Yeah, some people, you know, have a lot at stake here. Somebody in chat saying, I'm trans, both trans, partnered with someone who is trans, and a parent of a trans child.
The margins to vote Democrat.
Again, there's this is not a data first argument that people are making. And all the morons who've been making a data first argument, they had to end up like, you know, reversing them.
Baked, oh my God, I'm going to mispronounce her name, I feel like. Baked Remanzetta is also a former TYT mod who quit.
Themselves anyways on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so like, I only acknowledge it because
feel free to correct my pronunciation.
I want to say that I think that
Very
is
close.
a red herring and a bullshit excuse.
And if leftist critique causes you to...
I'm famously bad at Italian diction. This is what caused me to feel out of my like my music jury, like
change your worldview,
trying to sing Italian arias,
or adjust your approach that drastically. That is definitionally reactionary.
I feel like I hit the notes okay, but my diction was abysmal.
Well, I mean, I heard this from...
Oh my God, no, it's a German name. Okay, that's why I'm mispronouncing it, because I thought I was taking it as an Italian name. Oh my God, okay.
Dave Rubin.
Riemann Zeta?
How mean leftists were, and that they left him. And listen.
Oh yeah, Hitler absolutely used American. Like the Nazis used stuff like Jim Crow as a template for their.
If you're doing like any type of like show like this, you're going to hate everybody. Not that you should hate. I don't think there's any value in everybody hating you or not. Whatever.
Means you're doing something right.
You're gonna hate everybody.
Long E sound. Riemann Zeta. Riemann Zeta.
Because people are gonna be rude and think that they're and.
Il nom di mia nonna era Donatella Maria Luisa Oh my God, I'm so bad at pronouncing.
For it to alter your perspective and your analysis as to who is marginalized, who is in danger,
I couldn't even get Caro Mio Ben right.
It's going to provide the greatest amount of relief, help, support, material gain for the greatest amount of people, then you should be in a different business to begin with. But also, like, give me an effing break. There is no doubt in my mind that if we were sitting here and we're doing a right-wing show, I wouldn't be considered an asshole, and I would get invited on places, and I would be going and hanging out and skateboarding and eating sushi and this and that, like the warm embrace of these people. Like, yeah. Again, what is that? Mr. Death? Was it Mr. Death? The Errol Morris
documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Mr. Beast.
No, Mr. Death. This is a guy who was a lonely guy who was like a consultant for states when they would kill people with capital punishment. And somebody, some Holocaust deniers, he had said something like the effect of like, oh, I find it hard to believe they could have used Zyklon B. And he became completely embraced by the Holocaust denying Nazi community, and became like, just was living it up.
Yeah.
They were so much nicer to him.
They stayed
than
for
everybody
sushi.
else.
He stayed for sushi and bubble tea.
Stayed for sushi and bubble tea. And that is not a measure of the way you look at humanity. And that should not be a dictate as to what you express.
I mean, just look at the way that people like Blair White are love bombed. Look at how Anna's being love bombed by the right now, by people that definitely don't really like her, right? But they like to see her stick the they love seeing her stick the shiv in trans people
Publicly. If you've got a job where you are public facing, it is incumbent upon you to think about the implications of your words. And just like when, I celebrate the deaths of people who I think, like when Scalia dies, I'm like, yeah, good. He may have been a good father, good son, good brother, good, husband.
Not my problem.
That's not the issue.
Yeah.
I know this guy's name because of what he's done to the country. Same thing with Breitbart. I would go on and on. You are judged by what you put out there. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter what's in your heart. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, I could be the most right-wing guy in the world. I could, if I go home and I have
So this almost takes us back to the Thanos discourse with Tim Pool, right? Sam cares more about what somebody says in public as a public facing figure, how a politician votes, how they whip, what policies they're trying to legislate as a politician, than he does about this, speculative matter of like, what's in their heart though? Are they doing they're doing the wrong thing, or they may be doing it for the right reasons? Should we be more understanding? On a level, it doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, and you're making you're making a point there, Jay Davis. Maybe if they were prioritizing paying for women's sports as well as men's sports, I believe TYT cares about this. Nobody you've got all these people that seem to have a concern for women's sports that have never spoken about it before and aren't going to speak about it again. Just like whenever there's a shooting, you get a lot of right-wingers that seem to be really concerned about mental health. We got to do something about mental health. We got to improve our mental health, right? There's never like a bill. There's never like an action. There's never any attempt to actually do that. All they're doing is like, okay, let's, instead of thinking about, the kind of guns that are allowed in this country, let's think about mental health. Let's change the subject. It's the same thing, right? Yeah, Kissinger has like, what is it about people, like really bad people living very long lives? Or when they did speak about paying in women's sport, it was always justifying keeping it low. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's a story of the, I'm trying to remember, the NCAA, right? So basketball is a big sport. Men's and women's basketball, I think, are pretty well, like, I feel like a lot of people watch the women's the women's NCAA championship. And yet somebody who participated in it once gave us a sense of the comparison of the facilities, right? So when you participate in something like that, you get access to a gym. If you're in men's basketball, that gym is huge. It contains squat racks. It contains, anything that you could want. If you're in women's basketball, or at least according to this, to one example of somebody, their training facility was literally a rack of dumbbells, and they had room for so much more. They have access to better health care than other people. Yeah, that's true. That's a big reason. People like Kissinger and the Supreme Court justices tend to live longer than other people.
a little like a Hitler closet that I go into and pray every night. But I come out and I say things that are anti-fascist during the day. I'll take that versus the guy who's going to go back and say, like, pure of heart, but coming out and, like, because of nuances, Hitler had some good ideas. Trains ran on time and people were happy with the efficiency. Like,
I mean, I get what Sam's saying. Obviously, the person that, like, has a shrine to Hitler in their closet is a pretty bad person. But in terms of that person versus somebody who's actually saying good things about Hitler in public, the person that's saying good things about Hitler in public is doing a lot more damage.
That's not the way it works. What you put out is what you get judged on. Not what's in your heart. None of that.
Not what you're maybe capable of.
Not what you're capable. None of that. What you put out into the world, when you do this, that's what you get judged on. Period. We are two-dimensional. Yeah.
And that's why we don't stay. And this isn't about personal branding or anything. Like, why we don't. It would have been. That's why we don't stay for sushi and bubble tea. Basically, it's because we.
That's a reference to the Tim Pool show Emma did recently. She was invited to spend some time and socialize with Tim Pool and the crew, and sushi. I don't know if there was bubble tea. I know there was sushi offered, and I can't remember what else. But I guess Lance hung out a little bit and drank some beer with them. But Emma just didn't really have any interest in that at all.
Actually, believe in this. I really do believe in this, so much so that I'm, like, uncomfortable about talking about this on air. But I just think it's important to count.
Well, see, like, the thing about a Tribe Called Quest is that this is horrible strategy. Like I said, this is a foot in the door issue for the right wing. And although that Anna and Jink claim that they think that conceding this issue to the right is somehow a win, this is so weird. What other example can you find me where Anna and Jink say, this one issue, we should really concede it to the right wing? I think that the right wing, if we were to concede this issue, they'd realize how good faith we are. They'd realize how moderate we are, and we could really get some stuff done. They would completely back off. They'd be like, oh yeah, we didn't really have any other problems with trans people at all. We were totally right. It's a foot in the door thing, and I explained how that was how that works earlier in the
counteract it, obviously.
In the video.
So this, trans solidarity with Benny, who resigned from TYT. Seriously.
All right, let's we went a little long today.
Yeah.
I mean, what if it's just naivety? Okay, so if we're judging, is Anna Kasparian a good person? Is Jink Uger a good person? Then you're right. Intent matters, right? But you know what? I'm not. All right? Neither Anna Kasparian nor Jink Uger are getting invited to my Thanksgiving, regardless of their viewpoints, right? I'm not gonna have either of them babysit, like, right? I'm trying to think there are issues where you'd want to know is somebody a good person or not. Public facing figure is not one of those issues. And like, honestly, for anybody who thinks that there's something about these issues that Anna's just not getting or hasn't had it explained to her right, or that Jink's just not getting these issues right, please, like, look at what Benny has said in her many interviews, detailing the extent to which she did reach out, the extent to which she shared research that she had accumulated with Jink, and the extent to which neither Jink nor Anna was at all interested in it. If you're expecting that this was just like a little misunderstanding and they're trying to do what's right by trans people, that ship has sailed. And look, I'm not going to judge you for not being as terminally online as I am. All right. But as somebody who's watched this issue for quite a while now, I can say that with full confidence. I didn't jump to the assumption that TYT was unsalvageable. I did not, even though like everybody says, they are sock dems at best. And honestly, at this point, they're looking kind of IDW. It's not a conclusion that I came to hastily. But I mean, I understand the frustration and the confusion, right? And Sam was confused about this too. Sam, when he first got asked about it, when Tuna John called into Sam, Sam could not imagine how bad things had gotten on TYT, how fast, right? And the things that changed with Anna, she claims, are that she found some new information, right? And that's understandable, right? You feel one way on an issue, you find new information, and then you change your mind about it, right? That's understandable. But with Anna, it's not that she found new information. She seems to have forgotten old information, right? Like, as in, you take Anna from 11 months ago explaining language like birthing person to somebody to the right of her, and you put that Anna in a debate versus the Anna of now, the old Anna wins. Because the old Anna was informed on that issue. The old Anna understood the reason for that language. Anna has literally forgotten, and I say that with air quotes because I don't think she's forgotten. I think she's playing ignorant. It's strategic ignorance, right? And that's not the sign of somebody who just doesn't quite get it, or they're missing a few pieces, or they have the right intentions, but she doesn't care. She's throwing trans people under the bus. She's hurting us at our time of need, and she's cashing us in. So yeah, I mean, that's
wow. We will Nico, did you see that?
Yeah, like, well, Lisa, like a lot of people do, like, you'd have to, like, kind of you'd have to look at a lot of TYT footage to find, like, the, relevant, the relevant takes for comparison. Yeah, I mean, she is calculated on a certain degree of, public amnesia about TYT's takes.
That other lefty shows are lying about how much they support trans people so their audiences don't cancel them. Well, first off, I don't think that's true. But I don't what different than shut up about it. Nobody has to talk about transport. The reason why we talk about transports is because the right wants us to talk about transports.
Yeah, the left, the trans movement wasn't leading with that.
And like I said, the state of governing bodies is acceptance of trans athletes. Now, that is with the caveat that there just aren't very many trans athletes. It's not easy to be a trans athlete. Even though you're allowed to participate in the sports, you get a lot of hostility. Now, I talked to Fallon Fox a year ago about her experience being demonized by Joe Rogan. Fallon Fox is one of the strongest people I have ever met. Taking the kind of heat that Fallon Fox took to, in some ways, pioneer, trans acceptance in athletics. That takes a lot of courage, and that takes a lot of guts, and there's not a lot of people that can do that, right? At that time, the pressure was on Fallon because she was participating in fighting sports, right? At this point, it doesn't matter what sport you're participating in, you're gonna get shit on. If it's fishing, if it's billiards, I've even heard people talk about esports and chess. Like, yeah, trans women have a advantage at that's maybe the one sport where trans people are represented is like esports. But, like, realistically speaking, right, it is very hard to be a trans athlete. That's why there's so few trans athletes, and the ones that do exist are not taking home all the gold medals. They're not dominating sports. They're not, like, preventing anyone else from winning in their category. That is just not happening. That's absolute.
It's just absurd.
Yeah.
It's just absurd. All right. Well, I wanted to read. Oh, here it is. Sammy's hairbrush, dude.
Okay, I think he's talking to chat now. So let me see what we've got going on in the Discord. and see if I can manage a simple thing like moving somebody into bird brains. Hey, how does this work again? See, this is the thing. My mods are so good at this stuff. But I might not be. Vightingale. Oh, I might have pulled somebody into the chat prematurely. Oh, yeah, I pulled you into bird brains, but you dropped out. I didn't know. Yeah, I kind of I kind of just dropped you in without asking. Um there you are. Oh yeah, and you have the panel permissions now, so you can just jump in
Hello.
anytime you want. Hey, what's up? Everybody, this is Vightingale. If we can get a shout out for Vightingale in chat on
Hey
Twitch,
there.
that would be
Thanks for having
amazing.
me. Let me know if my mic needs any kind of adjustment. I just turned off the audio because I was listening to your show.
Oh yeah, because you'll get an echo that way. I'm not hearing an echo. There is a little bit of background noise. I don't want to, pressure you if it, like, it's usually a noise gate kind of thing. And sometimes noise gates aren't the easiest thing to adjust on the fly, but we can definitely hear you, and you're not getting an echo. There's just a little bit of background noise.
I turned off my air conditioner and my cat's water fountain. Maybe that will help.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh my God, those water fountains are awesome. Like I had one for my cat too, but low key it was kind of for me. Like I like having running water in my room for some reason. So how are you doing?
Yeah, it's really nice actually to have a little bit of like sound.
Yeah.
Bath.
Yeah, definitely. If you're in a city like I am, you got a lot of extraneous sound that's a lot less pleasant than a fountain. Air conditioning can be good for that too. Yeah, for the white noise. So yeah, this is Vightingale. Vightingale is one of the mods who submitted that letter of resignation and staged a kind of a action on TYT's show. I think it was it Friday of last week?
Yes, it was on Friday of last week. Pretty much right at the beginning of the main show was when that was set off.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk more about that if you wanted to, or yeah, I can tell you anything you want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious to hear about like the community of mods for TYT, kind of how this was coordinated and planned and everything. Anything that you want to touch on as far as that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to keep things somewhat limited to just not divulge too much, but I will say that a lot of people, a lot of the mods especially, were really upset by the direction that some coverage has gone on TYT for a long time. This has not just been these latest, most recent controversies. I would say for me, this started like, maybe even as much as of a year ago. There's been segments that have come up that me as a trans person and non-binary person took great objection to. I even like wrote very long critiques about what was going on and tried to submit that through our liaisons to the hosts, to the people there at TYT, and unfortunately those things kind of went unheeded, and I never got to speak to anyone more directly in any position about that, and it just sort of has seemed to have gone downhill from there. Yet at least for myself, I don't use I statements and things like that, but I thought that it was important to stick around. To serve the community. I felt like that was part of what I was doing there, and I was always, representing trans rights and my values there in chat, and I felt like that was making a really big difference. However, when some of these things happened, I was already upset about it, and then over the weekend, I guess it was on well, this kind of goes back to like June 30th and July 1st, when I think it was like right at the end of, it was June 30th, something like that. I had seen, it was probably a video of coverage from, the previous day, and it was all of these terrible rants and a lot of clips that were seen out. And I actually had seen a video by Andrea Rovensky. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yes. So chat may know Andrea as Cyber Demon. Andrea's rebranded to Andrea Rovensky now, but amazing streamer and YouTuber.
Yeah, and I very passionate, and I'm fairly new to her content, but I have a lot of friends and some of my fellow mods and other community members or regulars over in that channel. And I was watching, I think I had missed one of the live shows, but I went back and watched a video that was posted about TYT, and she doesn't usually cover TYT, but there was just so much vitriol coming from them that she kind of had to cover it. And one of the things that she brought to my attention on there was that these things were being said by the TYT main hosts, Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur. And she made up the amazing point that the other hosts, where were they? And in this, and are they speaking up to their colleagues, to their friends, to their coworkers, and voicing any objections whatsoever to this? And no, they weren't. And it's, at least that's not what it seemed to be. And it's not vocally, not on air, anything like that to their audience. And she, said, they're complicit. As long as they remain silent, they are complicit with this. And that really upset me. It caused me to, I shared that video on Saturday, July 1st. I said something, paraphrasing myself. I was saying, if this is the kind of propaganda parroting that is happening on Pride Month, I shudder to think what is next. And what came next, we, maybe we don't all know, but it got worse and worse and worse from there. And then sometime over maybe that same weekend, or it was on Monday, somewhere around then, I had learned that Benny had quit TYT and posted her Why I Left TYT video. And of course, when I watched that, it was so well put out. Well, every single thing that was said on there was spot on. The critique was completely, valid. And that also really upset me. And it also got to thinking about my position with TYT as their moderator. I try not to toot it too much, but I was their first moderator on the YouTube channel. I began, there at, November of 2020. So I've almost moderated for them for an entire 3 years. And, since then, I, had tried to advocate for all kinds of things, including a pathway to employment. I wanted to be a part of TYT. I wanted to work for TYT. I wanted to be TYT's community liaison, which was a job that they put up. I applied for that. I applied for their Rebel HQ contributor position. I, tried everything that I could to advocate for that. And that was a struggle that never came to fruition. And then all of the other things, combined with that, just really, told me that TYT was no longer starting to represent my values. And with this, what Benny was saying about, particularly about being a trans person, being a non-binary person, and not wanting to give anyone the impression that they tacitly were okay with what was being said. And that really, really struck me. Like I was saying before, when I I stayed, I was like, I'm doing more good by staying and keeping this community, serving this community. And they have these bad takes or things I disagree with, and maybe there's some kind of feedback, and it just kind of got worse and worse from there. And it really, really made me really rethink everything. And then in some various discussions I had with some of the other moderators, like Adrian Vixen, who's in chat right now,
We've got a few mods in chat.
Zeta,
Yeah.
and just all of these other wonderful people who I had developed really close personal relationships with. These people became friends. They were colleagues. They still are. These are people who I really, we're comrades, who kind of comrades in wrenchy arms. And
If you don't know Twitchies, wrench is a sign of being a mod on YouTube. So that's the wrenchy arms.
Right. Yeah, I have to make sure to think about whether it's a sword or a wrench or things like that. And I always have, even through all that time, because I had moderated for so long, I always had just the utmost respect and for moderators. And I always like to say on my own Twitch streams, like, mod, yeah, exactly. Adrian Vixen saying mod solidarity across channels, across platforms, because wherever someone might mod, they are performing a vital service to the community. They give their energy, they give their time, they give their knowledge, they give their social skills, they everything that can go into that type of a process. It is work. And it kind of kept coming back to, oh, well, this is a volunteer position and things like that. Well, in any other organization, if you were to volunteer for an organization, you would expect that there would be possibilities, that there would be doors potentially opening up, opportunities to join, to be employed, and those never came. And I continually felt pretty sidelined by that. I even submitted a Twitch pitch when they had that promotion, and Benny Carollo and Ravana were the ones that became those contributors. And so I had actually already modded for TYT before Benny ever came on. But when they finally brought on Benny, and then when Benny declared herself as trans and was coming out, and TYT embraced that and said, great, do your show, Galaxy Brain, and all of the, brought her on various shows to be a contributor. I was so excited. I was so glad to have representation that I felt, connected with me and who was speaking, things that were really, from my issues. And Benny was so much more educated on some issues than I was. There's definitely a reason why they call her Galaxy Brain.
Yeah.
But then to see the way that she was treated, and to see the way that I didn't even know about the phone call conversation. I didn't even know about her having been given a, what am I trying to say? I've kind of lost my train of thought, but I didn't know about her providing the facts, giving these articles to Jank and Anna and saying, look, these are the facts on this, and if you want to be educated on this, here they all are, and actually talking about this and talking it out and the logic of it. But then it seems like that was in itself, this like private phone conversation was almost a way of like not having those conversations on the air and allowing the audience to hear those debates, to hear those points and counterpoints be made, which I think it was kind of like a tactic that TYT uses that I'm seeing more and more. So it came to a head in those conversations with these various moderators. It was, I think, 9. It became 10, and then once after the action, I think an 11th, joined us. And I think there's been moderators who have left even before the collective action. So I would say I've been putting out the number 11 plus. I actually don't know the full number of how many moderators have resigned over this and other, takes that Anna and Jenk mostly, but maybe this is bigger than just them. So it's a lot of people who've left collectively, and I want to give them all full credit because these were moderators on YouTube. These were moderators on TYT.com. These were moderators on Twitch. These were moderators, on all these different platforms that have a live chat function. Actually, Facebook was another platform that actually TYT chat was actually still toxic all throughout those things because Facebook was a platform that was unmoderated. And that was also a thing that I was really kind of rubbed me the wrong way sort of from the beginning, but I just sort of like jumped at the chance to be a moderator, was that before November 2020, TYT chat was absolutely overrun and toxic and full of white supremacy, bigotry of every kind, logos, spamming, just of every kind of thing. And it always struck me strange how they did not moderate their own channel. The channel didn't moderate itself. There was never any moderators added from the beginning, who just belonged to staff. TYT has exactly, Adrian Nixon. TYT has a lot of resources. They have interns, they have staff, they have producers, yet they never moderated their chat. And I kind of am coming back to that was a choice that they made.
Yeah, interesting.
And
I remember.
Go ahead.
Oh, I remember the old days. Like it was like unmoderated, and I always assumed that they just didn't have any way to that YouTube didn't have that function. It's almost like they treated it like the comment section, and comment sections, I guess, are always toxic. And I mean, there is a way to moderate comment sections, just like a lot of people don't do it. But yeah, like the mods are the heart and soul. There is no community without mods, because like, look, if we didn't have mods here, yeah, like especially when I take a stand for an issue that's not popular with a lot of cishet creators on Twitch, my chat's going to be absolutely overrun with trolls and hate accounts and slurs and everything else, right? You don't really have that base of operations to form a community without people that are taking care of it, and it's a lot of work. Especially, so you said you were the first mod on TYT?
Yes, I was.
You were the actual, wow, because like that,
my knowledge, I think there may have been someone who was a Discord moderator who I think very occasionally was a TYT mod, but TYT moderation on YouTube in particular was very difficult. TYT had, usually, like, not always, but at least 5,000 to 10,000 viewers in any given show, and public chat, the public stream was always an incredibly hard thing to do, especially by oneself and things like that. So I believe they briefly had someone on there, but I don't believe they ever really moderated for any long, length of time in public chat. So yes, I was the first YouTube moderator on their live chats, and as I'd said on the letter hack, I will just give a shout out to the letter hack, who, and I think you've already,
Oh yeah.
covered this a little bit, and who brought us on immediately on Saturday after the Friday's action and talked to all of us and asked us what was going on and what does it mean to be a moderator and what did we go through and why did we all resign, why did we step away. And actually we didn't get to read our letter on air at that time. We sort of like, I kind of thought about it too late. I was like, we didn't get to read the whole thing. But the letter hack clipped up our highlights and then put a reading of one of our moderators, Roller Dragon, reading the letter. So they've been so generous with their air and their time and their effort to bring this to light. And Sandy Lovas, who is at left of the box on YouTube, is a moderator for the letter hack, but also creates content. And Sandy Lovas was a Rebel HQ contributor and everything, and had her own long story that I won't go into. But she also created a video of TYT mods quit en masse. Good. And I am so grateful for them because no one was telling that. And of course, TYT is definitely not talking about it.
Yeah, she debated Jink. I believe we watched that a while ago. She actually, took up the issues that she had with TYT over its coverage of trans issues up with Jink on the main show, and was let go of, I think, shortly after that. So.
Totally, which is very telling in and of itself. TYT touts itself as a place where we can agree, we can disagree, we can just do so respectfully, and that was something I always had promoted in chat and things like that. But it became more and more evident that they do not hold themselves, the hosts in particular, do not hold themselves to the same standards as their own core values, and that chat was being held to. And so there was constantly this mismatch where the hosts would go off on some kind of tangent or go on things that if we saw that in chat, we would address it in some kind of way. Like saying, hey, please don't use ableist language. Please don't, that kind of thing. Insulting people with body shaming, in making bigoted insults. It undermines the progressive message, things like that. And that was consistently happening. And like I said, just sort of got worse from there. And then when this collective action happened, that lack of accountability was driven into sharp relief. The TYT network, company, community, I don't know who all is on staff, has done all that they can to seemingly avoid any accountability for that. They've tried to bury the lead. They tried to bury the story. Every single show has gone on business as usual, where they just kind of go on and to cover the stories that they're wanting to cover. Now, I kind of give them a little bit of leeway because is the TYT main show, and then there's also shows that are led by other hosts that kind of have free reign of their own show. There's The Damage Report. There's Indisputable TYT with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. There's Unbossed, there's the watch list, and yet I was waiting, just like Andrea Ravinsky had said, I was waiting for those hosts to express something, some measure of, I disagree. I wanted to hear them say the words, I disagree with Anna, I disagree with Jank.
Yeah, because just
I
like
never
the
heard
ability
that.
to disagree doesn't mean anything if you're not, able to actually, like, in some ways it's like Jink talked the talk of responsiveness and of listening and of a dialogue, but it sounds like really didn't walk the walk. Wasn't interested in the information that Benny had to share with him, and at the end, like, I can't imagine being in Benny's place or any any trans person working with TYT, when they're alluding to like the inclusion of trans people on the staff as being evidence of their goodwill towards trans people, right? That's getting used as a fig leaf. That is not cool at all. And it's like,
Absolutely.
given that, if it's a job for you, right, you're now in a really bad position where on one hand you've got your needs, and like I said, in this industry, a job at all, even if it's doesn't have great benefits or whatever kind of deal it is hard to come by. That kind of like sustainable, like steady income is difficult to procure in our line of work. So now you're having to put the person in a position of needing to say something, not feeling like there's anything that they can do from the inside, given that like she didn't seem interested in actually listening to anything that Benny had to say, and you're getting used as proof that TYT does not have a problem with trans people when in fact that they do. That's just an awful position to be put in.
Absolutely. And I similarly felt I could not be used as that fig leaf. I could not be used as that symbol of tacit endorsement or disagreement, because I've been a long time community member. And I've been even before I was a mod, and my logo is, a trans pride, non-binary, like kind of like a Captain America shield, sort of a thing. But and we even wrote Nightbot commands, like I didn't even mention this earlier, but we did copywriting. We wrote our own Nightbot commands from scratch, and we actually had to fight for or advocate for even the ability to use Nightbot in the first place. And those kinds of things were gate kept a little bit, which was, another issue. But we wrote our own custom Nightbot commands, one of which was Pride. And that command said something like, TYT loves its to us LGBTQIA, siblings. And, how could I, after that, post that command? Because that clearly was in conflict. And kind of just going back to the host, I will give a modicum of credit. I will give a credit to John Idarola, because he said, that Monday, I support trans rights. I support gender affirming care. I support trans people in sports. He said a lot of things that he supported. He didn't say the words, I disagree. He didn't say Jesse Singal is transphobic. I looked it up over the weekend, and it turns out Jesse Singal is a huge transphobe, and Jesse Singal promotes gender or gay conversion torture. And I didn't know Jesse Singal's name over a week ago, but now I do. And also for Anna to then come back after the criticism and say, oh, and it's almost like she kind of like gave this non-apology, or not even an apology. She just commented on it. And then she went on to say Jesse Singal's not transphobic. So I just found that
it would have gone so much better with
disgusting.
a ukulele, honestly. It would have. she needed to break out the
that was in the
ukulele.
letter. That was Forbes.
God,
shout out to
letter,
Forbezilla, because she wrote
hard.
that line about the ukulele.
Yeah, no, the whole letter was just fire. Like I was surprised, I was like, okay, well, we should read this letter because it's an important thing. But I wasn't expecting it to be written in such a way. I wasn't expecting it to be so well written and to resonate so hard.
It was great. And I want to make sure to reiterate too that this was a collective action. I did not lead this action. In fact, I'm too lib for my own good sometimes, and I was kind of like, oh, I want to read the letter, I want to edit the letter, I want to put in some things, I want to format the letter, but I realized I think I'm holding us back on this. I think we need to act. And other people were saying, I think we need to act right now, because if we let this go over the weekend, then that weekend, the 24-hour news cycle, everything going on would allow TYT the cover that they needed to wash their hands of Benny and to pretend like everything was all okay and that this was just a mild difference of opinion. And it is absolutely not that. So we did what we did. We collectively left. We resigned. Forbezilla, again, shout out to Forbezilla. Forbezilla, at the beginning of the hour on Friday's show, gave $10 of her own hard-earned money to send a super chat. And that super chat said that your moderators have resigned and included a link to the Google document of our text. Channel, producers, whoever was behind that, I've never seen them move so fast, because immediately within, I would say, 5 seconds, Forbezilla was banned. Not timed out, not comment removed, was banned from the channel, completely silencing dissent. And then, you know, of course, that show went on the way that it did. We were trying to call attention to, you know, the movement. And while this was happening, they stripped everyone, of course, of all of their moderator wrenches. They, you know, actually later, when I went over to the Twitch chat of TYT, I had a VIP diamond. They removed the VIP diamond. And they, without saying anything about it, it just disappeared all of a sudden. So it's interesting how they respond to dissent being voiced, even
especially
in a
considering what you were saying about
way.
their reluctance to just institute basic, you know, moderation and you know, like things like Nightbot and like, you know, you're here helping them. You're here giving them, throwing them a bone, saying, hey, you might not know about this, that there's this thing called, you know, Nightbot. They're so reluctant to you know, give the go ahead on that. And so like you got to do a lot. What Vightingale is describing here in terms of removing you know, banning people, removing permissions from people on multiple platforms, like that was that they like you said, they worked fast. They were highly motivated to suppress any public expression of dissent, and that really cuts against Jink's whole, you know, message of being a place that is tolerant of disagreement. They are absolutely not tolerant of disagreement and are doing everything they can to stifle that.
And it's gone on from there, and it's just and again, I'm kind of gave a little bit of credit to John Iderola, but again, they could not bring themselves to disagree. This was also Wednesday. This was the Wednesday after the holiday last week, right? So it was the first show after the holiday, after Benny's announcement. And actually that is, I don't know if you're not familiar with the TYT audience, Wednesdays on the Damage Report is Big News Wednesdays. So who was there? J.R. Jackson was the co-host. And J.R. Jackson also did not voice any disagreement. And so I immediately held them to account on that. I immediately said to myself, okay, great. They said we support trans rights, but they didn't say we disagree. And so I was really disappointed by that, actually. And then I watched Indisputable, which is right after the Damage Report. And the show was about 9 minutes late. And I'm guessing there was probably they said technical difficulties, but I'm wondering now if there was some conversations happening off of air saying, don't talk about this, don't address this. And what happened when the show starts? Business as usual. They didn't even talk about it. It was right into the stories. It was right in, like, as if nothing happened. And then same thing, I didn't actually watch, had so many things going on. I didn't watch Watch List or Unbossed from that day. But from what I've heard from others, it was exactly like I've said, just business as usual, covering the stories, not addressing it. So John Iderola was literally the only person that day to even talk about it. And when he did, it was sort of this very soft thing. Andrea Ravensky was actually there in the YouTube chat to listen, because I had told her kind of like, you know, what had been going on. And she actually said thoughts and prayers. And I think that that's an absolutely great characterization of what happened. It was kind of like, we're with you, but we're not going to actually stand up for you in any meaningful way. And then it just got worse from there, and we submitted our resignation letter, and even after that had happened, they sort of brought it up again. They had said, "Oh, looks like we've got some of these moderators in chat who have resigned," and all these kinds of things. And that was on TDR. That was on main show. Again, the other shows did not mention it at all. But then when they did address it, they kind of talked about it. They kind of gave some lip service, but then they still failed to read the letter. They still failed to actually address the reasons why we left. And so I see that as a huge kind of cowardly move, honestly, with this many people, over 10, and even more than that, leaving. I think I don't want to say, maybe that's too strong of a word, but I think we deserve, with all the work that we put in, with all the effort, with the volunteering, with all of the the community and everything, I felt like we deserved a little bit of airtime on that. They take time on social breaks during to read super chats and to things like that. They could have taken 2 minutes to read our letter. They could have made it into a segment, and they could have had people laugh at us, or whatever. They could have made it into content, but they chose not to do that. It's, like they say, like, houselessness, unhoused. It's a policy choice, those kinds of things. This was a choice that they made. And when they did respond to it, it was very condescending. It was very dismissive. Oh yeah, they think they're doing what's right, so nobody hate on them. But we're not gonna read. We're not actually gonna tell you why they left. And that's what they've been doing ever since. This entire week has been just like that, and they've actually failed to. They've actually failed to address it this entire time. I think that I'm actually finally banned on their channel. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of looking into that. But my comments were not visible today. And I was being very respectful. I was going in there saying, please share the letter of the 11 mods who have quit. Please, share our grievances with the audience, because they deserve to know. And they won't do that.
And you talked about,
and I will also.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, all the work that you put into this, right? Somebody in chat mentioned the emotional labor, and when you're talking about modding for a channel that's getting hate thrown at it, and the hate's directed towards people like you, it's hard to describe how much emotional labor that is, right? When you're having that kind of vile, like, transphobia, and you're having even if it's not like directed towards you personally, like the mod, like having to see, like, you end up seeing stuff, like the stuff that chat doesn't experience, you're seeing, you're reading through, you're saying that is transphobic, like,
Exactly.
like delete, right, or ban this person, right? You're having to read all the stuff that other people are being spared of. The thing, like I said, the mods make the community. The mods set that the ground work in place to even have a community, right? Because, like, you can't, like, and I've experienced it myself, getting massive hate raids. Does not make anybody feel safe, and you need to feel safe. You need to be able to have conversations, and you need to to know that there's there's certain things that are going to be too far. But it sounds like the one thing that was too far for TYT was any criticism of their political view, after Jink, like, made all that noise about wanting to embrace different opinions. It's only his
Exactly.
opinion that he really cares about at the end of the day.
Right. And it's really interesting, some of the other stuff that has come out of this. Like, for instance, on Happy Half Hour that night, I saw someone in chat say, please tell me John and Brett aren't awful. Well, on Happy Half Hour that Wednesday night of last week, Brett put out a tweet that said something about, it doesn't matter if you have a penis or a vagina or whatever, like spelling it wrong incorrectly. It's about being an asshole. And if you are such and such, I can't remember exactly what he said. Like if you're something like speaking up against us or whatever, then you're the asshole or something like that. And kind of maybe referring to Benny or to, I'm not sure if it was like directed at Olay, but that tweet was, I think one of the best things that he did was delete that tweet. But Emo Dragon took a screenshot of that tweet and saved it and posted it. So we see you, and we saw what you said. And there's been no apology. It's now a week later. Happy Half Hour was tonight. It ended a couple of hours ago. I didn't watch, but I saw that someone else was banned for asking for actually at least 2 other people. There was someone on Twitter who posted about being banned, and they said, you know what, I'm proud to be banned because I brought up, I want them to address this issue about Benny and about the mods and about all this stuff. And I think they said something like that they didn't think the other moderators should remain because of what is going on with them, and they got banned for that. And it was a very respectful dissent, but it's like, oh, they're acting as if anything distracting from the show, it just has to be removed. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we did as moderators. It was a community discussion. Sometimes if people wanted to talk about, they're happening with their dog at home, or their, garden or stuff, we would engage them with that. And we were watching the show, but we're also a community. We're also having like a little chat kind of a thing here. And so if a community member has a concern, has something like that, we don't just ban them. So it's really become a huge problem. There's been some toxic stuff said by several people in the network, and then also just striking how little and how few people have come to our defense, to come to our aid. And I actually will give other credit to 2 other people. I want to give some credit to Francesca Fiorentini. She is only a part-time TYT contributor, and she has her own channel, The Bitchuation Room. She's a comedian, and she has her own career. Good. She had the guts. She had the backbone to say the words, I disagree. And also, I disagree with Anna. I disagree with Jank. Now, she didn't go into it too much. I'm not on her Patreon, so maybe she addressed it in like more detail somewhere else that I'm not privy to.
Yeah, she said that she was going to talk about it more on Patreon.
And she addressed it on Monday, but again on Monday, it was very similar to what she said on Friday. It was basically a very short, yes, I do disagree with Anna. Yes, I do disagree with Jank. I'm not going to get into it because, I think there's things with career. She didn't want to burn bridges. She didn't want to like engage in maybe what she saw as like drama and like roasting all these other people or whatever. But again, she didn't read our letter. That Monday, I'm a subscriber of the Bitchuation Room now for 3 months. So I had my, if you're not familiar with this feature on YouTube now, it's a member milestone message. So I sent my member milestone message of 3 months in at the beginning of that show, and I said, Franny, please read the letter of resignation that moderators collectively, submitted to TYT. This is a near and dear to my heart. I'm begging you. And I put trans flags and stuff because I'm a trans person. This is directly affects. This is not just about the trans issue. It's a labor rights issue. It's wrapped up in so many things, as you would know if you read the letter and things like that. And you did to your audience, and I thank you for that too. Yeah, and I don't know, and that was not addressed. So I felt a little bit saddened by that. I did send my member milestone message. I asked her specifically to read the letter. She was unwilling to read the letter. But she did say I disagree, which was farther than any other host has gone.
Yeah,
everything.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please respond.
Oh, sorry, you were getting to something.
I just wanted to forget before I forget it. If Adrienne Lawrence, she doesn't have her own host, but own show, but she's regularly covered as a host. She's a regular contributor. She's amazing. I actually bought her book from Shop TYT about workplace harassment and sexual harassment and stuff. And she not on air, but on Twitter recently, someone asked her about what was going on, and she actually tweeted and said, "This is unacceptable. It puts a stain on the network. It makes us look like we, support these views and things like that." So she actually voiced at least some objection to that. So she came out against it. Yes, Adrian Bixson. And so that needs to be, we need more of that. We desperately need more of that. And I believe, particularly on the main show, on Fridays, they kind of rotate a power panel. They bring on other guests and things like that. But I think particularly with Anna and Cenk, they've entered this sort of echo chamber just between the two of them, where they ping pong back these views on one another. But then the other one, they kind of have these mild disagreements, but then they don't have a third party. They don't have other people who are like, "No, actually what you're saying here really doesn't make any sense." And like sometimes there's these objections, but it's just very, very rare. But then it oftentimes turns into just like a yeah, and yeah. And it's sort of like editorialize, and it's off the cuff. It's not scripted. So I kind of leave some room for that. But when you're sharing things that are anti-factual, when you are a journalism professor, when you're a lawyer and you are not investigating, when you're not looking into just scratching the surface beyond the surface level, and looking into this, yes, Jesse Singal is super transphobic. And again, it's just, I keep talking about that because I'm a trans person, and that was just like a knife in the gut to me, and really hurt me. It really hurt me.
It doesn't seem like they even want to platform the debate at this point, which is what they're kind of indicating that they do. And even that's like problematic, because we're not talking about like a legislative issue. We're not talking about, we're talking about a question that involves trans people's right to exist, that's been threatened, that their words have been spoken by a number of people on the right saying that they want to excoriate us from public life. Right. And it feels like there's something a little stronger than that that's being dog whistled, right, by the likes of Michael Knowles, right? Even if you have like some kind of like nuance that you want to bring to the situation, like Sam Cedar was saying, now is definitely not the time. You are throwing wood on the you're throwing wood on the stakes that they want to burn us at, right? You're contributing to, you're putting us in danger at this moment. But like, they won't even platform a discussion of like, hey, maybe actually there's some problematicity to somebody like Jesse Singal, which is a vast understatement, but not right. That it's apparently not. So what I'm wondering, right, especially with Francesca, is whether what their response will be to, since she, I guess, has been the most direct of any of the current hosts that are still there, as far as saying, I disagree with this. I disagree, with what's been said, right? I don't know. Like, I get the feeling that it's not safe to disagree at TYT on these particular
I get that
issues.
feeling too.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's dealt up in contracts, if that's written out in anywhere, or if that's just a cultural thing. It seems like, I'm not sure where it's coming from. Wherever it is, though, it's become completely unacceptable and untenable. And I don't think they can continue to call themselves the home of progressives while they continue to behave this way and don't take accountability amongst themselves. The moderators didn't have any power, any institutional power, whatever. So for us to stand up to the hosts was really a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
And for a host to stand up to another host is actually a much more level playing field. And it's interesting too. I've been tweeting. I've been trying to raise awareness about this. And if you're, listening here, please use the hashtag or search on Twitter or wherever, search the hashtag TYT Mods Quit, because that's what we've been posting under to try to raise awareness, because they really want to completely bury this story under the 24-hour news cycle. They want to pretend like nothing's happening. I know I've said that before, but I've been trying to raise awareness to this, and it's just so much has been coming out. And
let me
what am I trying to say about that?
Let me put the stakes in perspective for anybody like Francesca, anybody that might be listening, right? I understand the position that you're in. I get the feeling that you don't have a culture that is truly accepting of dissent. I get the feeling that, there's all kinds of minefields that you're kind of stepping around. But what is at stake here is TYT's audience, which is progressive, is supportive of trans people, but, isn't always informed on the issues, and sometimes does tend to rely on the host that they've, got a relationship with to inform them on those issues. What's at stake is the largest progressive platform on YouTube right now becoming a rabbit hole into, at the very least, like intellectual dark web, Jordan Peterson, Jesse Singal type of transphobia, right? And honestly, I don't think that's where the rabbit hole ends. Like, from what I've seen from Anna,
right?
Like, hold, brace for impact, right? Because it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Right. What I was going to say was that online with a lot of this, we've been posting about this. We've been trying to expose this. And this is also to be shown in the chats, of course, before many of us were banned. But a lot of people coming to the defense of TYT and or the individual hosts and saying, well, John said this and they said that, and see, but they're in a tough spot, and because they've got a baby on the way, and they're in a tough spot because they're under contract, and they're in a tough spot because they have a home, they're in a tough spot because they have a salary, they're in a tough spot, they. And no one's talking about the moderators. No one's saying that the moderators were in a tough spot. No one was saying that the moderators have a family to feed. No one's saying that the moderators have health issues that they need taken care of. No one's saying that the moderators, many of whom are disabled, might need some help with some things. And they, offered these kind of like words, and even that was something like, for a long time, we never really got even verbal acknowledgments on air. Like, actually, we never got, usually, unless there was a comment or a super chat that one of us sent, we never got our names, we never got our handles read out on chat, usually, unless it was like one of those specific kind of things. And then it was like only until just maybe, I want to say 4 to 6 months ago, did the hosts like sort of start acknowledging and just saying like, hey, I want to stop for a moment and thank the mods, because the mods keep our spaces safe and things like that. And I actually really appreciated that. That was a big change that I was like, oh, wow, that's so refreshing. They're really finally acknowledging us. They're really like saying that moderators are part of the community. Moderators serve, this kind of thing. Or it was something there.
Yeah. They provide a vital function without which,
right.
you can just go back to the way that TYT used to be. Chat was unusable. Chat was unreadable. It was slurs, abuse, just like constant Trump 2020 or Trump 2016 or whatever
and
the year was.
Way worse than that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say. And what you said earlier about just the stuff that you have to see. If you're a moderator and you're watching chat, you literally see every single thing that anyone wants to post. Now, fuck Top Chat, because Top Chat will mess you up every time. If you're on Top Chat, you'll miss everything.
Oh, yeah.
If you have to click over to live chat.
YouTube's so weird.
Oh my God, Adrian Vixen saying some shit. I forgot about the sex bots. The sex bots were a whole thing.
Oh, I forgot about. I know what you're talking about.
Like a few months ago, they were so rampant, and then we just kept bopping them because we were so good. We just got used to bopping them, and we were just like, I don't know. It was amazing. But
I mean, they were
the
like
moderator team. I just cannot sing the praises enough of our moderator team, because we were facing these kinds of challenges daily, we were the best. We were so fucking, we still
Oh
are.
yeah.
And we were also, not only that, actually on YouTube, I don't know if you know, YouTube doesn't have such great moderator tools.
Yeah, Twitch is much better when it comes to
Which is much better because it automatically saves the chat history of every single unique chatter. Automatically does that. And
so
on
if you've
YouTube,
ever watched
it doesn't.
if you've ever watched Hassan, this is what Vightingale's talking about. Hassan, when he's chatting with a chatter, will sometimes bring up the person's name. That's a mod tool that Twitch has. YouTube doesn't have that. In some ways, Twitch has had to deal with hate raids on a large scale. So some of the moderation tools stem from that. But even before that, they had better tools, and YouTube really has struggled to keep up on so many levels. In terms of just being able to because like moderating is a tough job, and the more tools that you can add to a moderator's toolkit, the better the better that the chat can be, and the easier that it can be on them in terms of looking at that. Seriously helpful.
And so we faced the extra challenge of, well, how do you even know what you've done? And we wanted to have accountability, right? Because like if, for instance, if we time someone out or we ban someone and then someone comes back later and says, well, they banned me because I said this and now they're being mean to me. Well, we wanted to have a record in some way of like saying, well, we can go back and say, well, no, I banned you because you said this horrible racist shit. Not because not because, whatever. So, and these are the rules also of the platform, right? So we knew we were always referred back to the terms of service of YouTube and Google and TYT's core values. So that was kind of what our guiding principles were. And these core values were kind of like our values in a way. And we were kind of worked on this, like, again, as the first YouTube moderator for that channel, this was all brand new. This was all like just very new and all being like put together. And I also want to give credit to the, person that I was kind of liaisoning with. And I just kind of like felt like that, despite all the building that we did, we were a little bit taken for granted. And it was sort of like, again, I advocated for what I began to refer to as like a pathway to employment, similar to the way progressives in immigration were talking about a pathway to citizenship, right?
Yeah.
As a very mild way of talking about like, hey, we should just be allowed to cross borders are imaginary, and migration, freedom of movement should be maybe a human right.
Yeah, and hiring from within, from people that have already been like providing you with the very necessities of for the community to exist. People that know a lot about the community and obviously have a lot invested in the community. That should be a hiring pool. It sounds like it wasn't in any way.
No, it wasn't. I tried very hard, actually. And I even hesitate to say how much I tried away. And, it was difficult. I can't always send an email and things like that. But I applied for at least 3 jobs there. And I was not taken seriously for those jobs. I wasn't even asked for an interview. And that disappointed me greatly. And yet I still love TYT, and I like dedicated myself to being there because they are the biggest. I think you described them as the biggest, largest, online platform of progressives or something on the left.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I'm sort of realizing that's kind of true. There are a lot of leftist creators now, but back in 2020, pandemic had happened. When pandemic had just hit and I just lost my job. I turning to the damage report in the morning and like finding community when I needed it. And I wanted to be a part. I was a part of that community, but I also was like, I was seeing all this shit and
So when you
wanted
say
to
TYT is
get rid
great,
of it.
you're talking about the community. You're talking about like the TYT army, for
Yeah.
lack of a better
In
term,
all of
right?
them across all the channels, you know,
Yeah.
because it's not just TYT, it's various channels as
Not just the
well. And
main
I've been
show,
a
but
viewer
yeah.
of the Young Turks main show for, of course, a long time, and I learned a lot from them too. But Damage Report had launched and it had branched off, and that was wildly successful. And it was in the morning, so it was really convenient for me. I was like, okay, I'm up, I'm doing my thing. What's going on in the world? What's the Damage Report? And I think even the Damage Report was based on like a Trek kind of like, whoop, whoop, what's the Damage Report? You know, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
As John's a nerd. And I was like, oh, I'm down for that. I'm a nerd. I'm a Trekkie and I'm a progressive. And like John's a political scientist or what. He's like, he has a degree in like poli-sci, right? So these are very smart people. They taught me a lot. They've like moved me on some issues, and I haven't agreed with everything they've said. And that's, you know, what I told Jenk when I met him in person once, actually. You know, I admired a lot about these people, and I still do. I said something in a reply about a tweet to someone. I was like, I don't hate Anna. Anna has been a progressive warrior for years and has like fought for women's rights, and has actually, someone sent me a clip where Anna had to be the adult in the room and say, actually take the position of like, whoa, y'all are being way too immature about this issue, and actually you need to be settle down and take this seriously. So I appreciate them in that situation,
Yeah.
because they're standing up for their values. And yeah, they're like, right now they're kind of acting like, well, yeah, I just get to say what I want to say, and you're just gonna have to eat it up no matter, you know what, and just like, these are just my opinions, and like, I'm just being honest. Well, I know another person that said, I'm just being honest. And, you know, it's just like, if you're not allowing yourself to be checked even by your friends, and if you're a friend to someone and you're not checking them, then you're not doing anyone any favors.
Yeah.
You're not doing your friend a favor, and you're not doing yourself a favor.
Well, especially when you're claiming that you want to do right by trans people, and you've got trans people in your community that have been working for you, putting all kinds of labor, emotional and otherwise, into creating a community for you, and they're saying this is not it. You got to listen to that, right? Or else it's hard for anybody to take you seriously when you say that, you know, this is like, you know, that you care about trans people. When trans people say like, this is hurting us, not helping us, like, please stop. Like, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that at some point. And yeah, I mean, like, we've seen so much of this, right? And there's a lot that could go into there's a lot that goes into like this effect, right? The allure of the IDW, the allure of centrism, and the allure
Actually
of the
talk
right
about-
in terms of you know, the amount of money that's just like available to somebody that is going to be, you know, useful in some way to the right. And it doesn't have to be, you know, being like, I'm going to be a hardcore right winger, I'm going to be like, you know, Michael Knowles, right? You can do just as much damage by saying, now I'm a liberal, but, you know, and then undermine, you know, the existence of trans people like that's, you know, doing, you know, work for them. And we've seen people, you know, not just in TYT, but in the debate sphere and the, you know, YouTube progressive content creation sphere, we've seen people say kind of the same thing of as Anna, well, I'm just going to say the things that I want to say, and that's how I feel. And, you know, if you don't like it, you know, that's your problem. I've done so much work for this group of people that I think I'm owed a little bit of moral self-licensing, and that's what it is at the end of the day. You know, I've raised X amount of money in charity, and therefore, you know, don't like give me grief over, you know, the fact that I'm attacking my own community in some ways. It just seems to happen, you know, in so many different places. Unfortunately, it's not just TYT.
Yeah, spot on. For sure. I was actually going to ask you, what's the acronym that you're using? Because I'm not really familiar with that.
Wait, which acronym?
I something? I asked earlier in chat, but I don't think it.
Sorry, there's an acronym that I was using.
I think so, for like a centrist take or something
sorry,
like
yes,
that.
IDW. Yeah, see, I'm terminally online. You can tell, right? When I say this acronym, and I assume that everybody's going to know what that means. So the intellectual dark web
Yes,
is a movement that encompasses like Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin, all these like so-called enlightened centrists, and like some of these people,
Right.
we know that they're not centrist at this point, but for Bill Maher is a great example of this. Bill Maher is somebody that came from the left and joined the IDW, and they act like this nuance is just like the big brain take to have, and maybe you're an ideologue and you can't quite, you know what I mean, you can't quite conceive on the level of that. You're not smart enough to realize that Jordan Peterson's a genius, right? Because you're like, that emperor hasn't got any clothes, and they're like, no, he has the best clothes of all. I mean, actually, Jordan Peterson, that's the one thing I can't knock is his fashion sense, kind of uncanny, but in a metaphorical sense, he is an emperor with no clothes as far as being praised for his intellect. Glenn Greenwald, yeah, Shapiro, IBS, yeah, there's another acronym that kind of fits there too. But yeah, the intellectual dark web, or IDW, and it is absolutely represent something that represents itself as centrist while leaning heavily to the right. This is related term C fishhook theory, right? How centrism can often have a lot in common with the far right, despite dressing itself up as being moderate.
I feel like there's these talking points that are just kind of like, and actually I'm going to give a lot of credit to Benny Carollo again, because she's so smart, and like it's sort of a joke, but it's like, and I think this may have been someone else talking about it, but it's like brain worms. It's the first time I've ever heard about it. And so it's just like, and you talked about a fishhook theory. I don't know if that's related to it, but it's like, yeah, I feel like somebody offered them some bait and they took it. They like somehow took this brainworm idea and they took it, they bit it, they ate it, they chewed on it, they digested it. They internalized it. I'm not gonna even like say it just to one person, right? And so it's like,
yeah, brainworms
they got this idea. Go ahead.
Oh, that really fits, right? Exactly what's happening. A brainworm is like an idea that you take without realizing that you're taking it on. It's something that's kind of insidious in that, like, it gets into your head, right? So for instance, if you take an audience that doesn't know anything about trans people and you say a bunch of transphobic tropes, that audience is not going to know that these are transphobic tropes, right? They're by definition, kind of, ignorant of this stuff, right? But when this is the first thing that they've heard, trans people are like this and this and this. Oh yeah, mental illness, right? They'll start to absorb and digest that idea, like you said, and not even realizing that that's the roots of transphobia. And like, those are the dangerous takes, both in terms of like changing somebody like Anna, if that's, really what's happening, and it's not just a grab for clout and relevancy on her behalf, but it's also the audience that like, if you tell somebody like, hey, like, not to be transphobic, but blah, 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 biological males, it's like they don't have any defenses against that. And the fishhook is just the sort of overlap between so-called centrist views and far right views, the way that the center avails itself to the far right, and all the while claiming that it's the extremes. You got to watch out for the extremes. I'm a centrist. I'm safe. I'm moderate. Kind of seems to make sense. Okay, let's stick to the middle. That's like the safest path. But when it so they'll describe this as a horseshoe theory, right? When you say that the far right and the far left, they have more in common than they want to think about. But when you reconceive of that structure as a fishhook, right, now the far right kind of bends over and starts to touch the center. And you see something like the intellectual dark web, somebody that like couches, their beliefs in a centrist framework, but is actually just leading their audience down a far right rabbit hole. And
it's so weird for TYT. I got to just say, like, it's so weird for TYT because I don't think they ever position themselves as the center. They call
Oh, yeah.
themselves the home of progressives. They always said, we're not Democrats. We're kind of leftists. We're left of center. We're unapologetically left of center. We push as hard as we can at all times, like a freight train, toward the left, because the right isn't stopping. Right has all the money, the right has all the guns, and they are just begging for for an excuse to use them. And so I felt like home of progressives, okay, that's what I want to sign up for. I want to be a part of someone who says, I am not going to back down, and I am going to stand for what's right because I believe in it and I want for the best outcomes. And one thing I think that maybe is steering to this center thing is because they've always said that progressive values are good for the whole country, right? If we like fight for progressive values, then we're also going to be materially benefiting people who don't even agree with us, because roads, for instance, in chat, always people would be like, I don't like socialism, I don't like communism, and I would just be like, well, like roads? Do you like firefighters? Do you like police even? And I was like, people who were back the blue, I was like, do you realize the police is socialism? And they would be like mind blown, and then they would start a conversation with me. And as a moderator, going back to kind of the importance of moderators and the importance of this movement, is that it's like that engaging spirit and that like being like, well, no, I'm gonna make this argument for the progressive argument side and stuff like that, and engaging and things like that. And I think maybe part of what this drifting is like that kind of appeal. And TYT is familiar with the term audience capture. There was actually someone who super chatted recently about audience capture, and they read it, and I felt like they took the message entirely wrong way. The person was talking about audience capture. They were talking about like the audience is trying to capture them, right? But it's like, I realize they may be trying to capture a certain audience. They're trying to appeal to a wider audience. They're trying to get people who don't necessarily agree. We welcome people who don't agree. We welcome people who might not understand where everything is coming from, but we want to put our argument out there for them. We want to display. We want to points. We want to share our ways of thinking. We want to share our perspectives, where we're coming from, and hopefully that connects on a human level to what someone else may be experiencing, like having to work their entire lives for like until they're 65 or older, to like until they can finally think about like taking a break.
Oh, yeah.
And reading a book.
And the forces, even within the Democratic Party, that are trying to push that further and further off, based on the fact that the capitalist class largely has a much expanded lifespan, and those who don't have the same access to medical care and frankly to money don't experience that same thing. So you're getting your policy written. They're saying, gosh, these retirement policies, this is a little generous. I mean, I'm okay at 65. I'm okay at 67. I can still work. You should be able to work too. But yeah, you're touching on something really important, right? Let's take us back to the 2016 election. When you compared, and this was prior to the end of the Democratic nomination process, but when you would compare Bernie's numbers running against Trump, or it's hypothetical, right? Because like I said, it's before the primary is over, but you had Bernie beating Trump consistently by more points than Hillary. Where do you think that comes from? It comes from the fact that on some level, despite that Bernie is speaking to things that some people, now I'm not going to say on the far right, because if Bernie was speaking to far right desires, like he wouldn't be, we wouldn't fuck with him, right? But there are some people that are just maybe culturally affiliated with the right that will see somebody like Bernie fighting back against capitalism in a dim sock manner. Not, he's not like a socialist, but like, it's compared to what you see from the two parties, compared to what you see from the neoliberal consensus, right? That does seem like socialism. Paying for roads seems like socialism.
And speaking of Bernie and going back to 2016, obviously that was before my time moderating with TYT, but I was a fan of TYT at the time, and I was a longtime viewer of TYT. I wasn't watching on YouTube at the time. I was mainly watching through like probably through like their .com membership kind of thing, because I was able to watch the full shows and they have them saved and things like that. So, and all of the different shows that they had. So I found that really convenient and everything. And I was watching, to be engaged and to like figure out what the things were going on in the elections. And I was a Bernie supporter, and a lot of that was informed by TYT, and I was kind of like, actually got involved that way, and just with his campaign as far as like in my electoral area and stuff like that. Not campaigning exactly, but I was like a delegate.
Oh, nice.
And I got to participate. Yeah, it was really amazing to be engaged in the political process that way. And it was really interesting because I got to speak actually and say something. And at the time, I was kind of like drawing these, comparisons between Bernie and Hillary, for instance, right? Because that was a big discussion, right? Who we support? Am I with her? Hold on, just a second. My cat has jumped up on the counter.
Oh my God. They do that.
They do that. So going back, as was saying something about Hillary and Bernie, and I was kind of like, Bernie Sanders he's not bought by Goldman Sachs and things like that, and I was Bernie supporter. I was kind of like, trying to make the case for Bernie and just kind of like talk about a lot of the things of his history of things, and a lot of that was informed by TYT. Mm-hmm. So I was really like admiring what I was seeing from them, and I was like getting a lot of information, as well as just I think of being a part of the community and sort of learning values as well. I think I was just kind of like, yeah, I agree with that. We should be more humane. We should be more compassionate. We should, I was hearing this from all these hosts, and that's what I loved about them, and that's what led me, in wanting to be a moderator and wanting to be a part of them. The company, really, to be a part of the organization, to really put something into something I believed in that arena, and to push for progressive politics. I was like, yeah, home of progressives. I want to really support this hard, and that delegacy and that and everything, moderating, all that kind of stuff was in that spirit. At least I'm not perfect, for sure. I still have a long way to go on a lot of things, mm-hmm. and a lot to learn. Obviously,
so it sounds like what you're saying is that they were like a positive pipeline, like they were bringing you in on a level that you could understand and resonate with, and kind of giving you both information, host, and the community to be able to go deeper into that. If you want to kind of take your progressivism and make it a little bit post-capitalist, right? There were people like Benny there who were leftists, and TYT's acceptance of people like this seemed to indicate for a lot of people that maybe they had their mind open to going a little further to the left. That's why it's so disappointing that the opposite has happened, and that it seems to be motivated for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't to the motivations necessarily, and I can't necessarily. I think we have some good ideas of like how these things can happen, but I just don't really. I can't abide it anymore in a way, and I can't represent it anymore, and until they are like willing to represent me and have my back and have my community's back in a way. It's not about me. It's about moderators. It's about all the moderators. It's about every single moderator on YouTube, every single moderator on Twitch, whether they were part of this action or not. I want to make that super clear because there's been a lot of division. There's been a lot of heartbreak. There's been a lot of people who have been like, no way, TYT is great. And they look at what they've done. And yeah, of course I see that point. I don't want to tear TYT down. I'm there like still, I kind of am so conflicted, right? I was one of their most ardent supporters, not only before being a moderator, but before then. So, take this action collectively with 10 plus other people, maybe 11 now. I want to read everyone's name out actually in a way and just refer to it because I don't want to forget. I don't want anybody to forget what happened. And TYT is trying to make everyone forget what happened. They're trying to gloss over it like it's no big deal. They're trying to say like, oh, they left, they stepped away, but just whatever. And we wish them well, kind of thing.
It's really
and
them that stepped away from you, not as much, you just like did the right thing when your hand was forced, right? It wasn't like if anyone's gone away from those values that TYT represented, it's them. And so like in some way, I guess what we're realizing tonight is that like the real TYT is the people that made it happen. And if Jink and Anna want to walk away from that, if they want to, lift up their leg like Old Yeller and piss all over it, I guess that's their choice, but it really sucks, and it sucks for everybody that believed in them and wanted something better. But just understand that everybody like that was part of that community, like they still exist, and I'm hoping that we can get to them before they get kind of sucked along, before they get brainwormed and fish hooked into supporting stuff that just isn't good. Isn't as good politically as Jink and Anna want to say, and is definitely bad for marginalized people and the people that Jink and Anna threw under the bus.
Yeah, totally. And, they do need to take responsibility. I was even kind of going to go a little soft on them and be like, it's whatever. But they do need to take responsibility. That's one thing I said in chat was, one, I want them to read the letter on air.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal. This is a collective action. And, Anna, not too long ago, I think somebody brought up the point that Anna supported a walkout that happened from some Dave Chappelle thing or whatever. And yeah, fuck Dave Chappelle. Actually, I have a really huge beef with this arena that's nearby that right after the huge controversy of his special and everything that came out, they hosted him for New Year's Eve that year. And they also claim to be the like most progressive arena also.
Oh, I remember,
it was just it was this really stark contrast, and it was like it felt like a big fuck you. I hope I can say that on your show, but it felt like just a really big slap in the face. I'm still sour over it. And yeah, that's the way.
Well, yeah, and they went against employees that didn't want to be a part of that too. Same kind of thing.
Kind of going back to the point, Anna supported that walkout. Anna thought that walkout was a good idea. She thought that was like a way of showing, you mean business and that this is an important issue to you enough that you're willing to give up everything. All of the moderators who've been a part of this situation, Give up everything any of our dreams that we had about why we decided to become a moderator in the first place. To leave. It's not, they kind of said like, well, this is a volunteer position and you can just, if it doesn't work out for you, you could just step away at any time and leave.
I like that Groove Dragon's got like a agenda here. Read the letter. 2, meet with Benny on air. 3, admit their mistakes and take responsibility.
Yes.
4, make trans rights a top priority going forward. 5, pay mods. And yeah, I mean, with some like TYT is like I said, the largest progressive, news organization. Like, yeah, if anybody can afford to pay their mods, it should be TYT. But like what you're missing here is leverage, right? And like you said, they don't seem to be taking like moderators who are doing a lot for their channel, who are doing a lot for their community. They don't seem to be taking you seriously. I think that putting pressure on the show host is probably the right move here if you want to try to exert that leverage, because like you said, you got to find somebody that that they can, I guess they can replace moderators or go without them or like mute the chat or whatever they want to do. But when it starts to be their show hosts walking out, then it becomes less and less of a TYT network and more of Jink and Anna's IDW project that they want to do. And then maybe that'll give them a pause. So, hey, if anybody's out there that you've got any sort of relationship with TYT at all right, understand that there's a power in that. And the power is to leverage your value to TYT on behalf of these people that have put so much into the community that they were trying to create and have been the organization, mainly Jink and Anna, have fallen so short of those values, like you say, that if anybody wants to come on and talk to me about it, I would be willing to have that conversation. But really, I think that what needs to happen is a conversation between people that are important to the TYT network, people that are still on board in some way, right? Instead of saying like, you should have maybe left with Benny. Okay, well, if you're still there, you've got some leverage. And I would love to see you use that for the right reason. I would love to see Jink and Anna be made to like walk the walk that they're talking. And that's only going to happen with hosts, with somebody that's, higher on the pecking order, unfortunately. So if you're out there, please support these mods. They have done so much to create the space that TYT's community exists in, and we don't want to see that community go down the drain, right? If you're still working for them, you can do something here, but we need is solidarity. Vightingale, thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome having a conversation with you. I think I've seen you in chat a whole bunch. I've rated in and hung out in your stream. Everybody, if you're not already following Vightingale, I would suggest you do that now. I might actually have to do that shout out manually here.
Yeah, I want to thank you while you're doing that. Just thank you so much for having me on, because you're kind of a new friend to me. Mm-hmm. I sort of met you, a little bit.
Fairly
I feel
recently,
like
yeah.
fairly new, a few months now, and I've been loving your streams as well. I feel like you're very articulate. I like your vibe. I like the kind of content and things that you talk about. And I love that you've got the trans pride colors and that you're not ashamed in this, you're very like educated and well versed in all of this. And I'm learning a lot from you, and I like that you post your videos on YouTube and things like that, and your Twitch streams and everything like that. So I'm really thankful and grateful to you for having me and spending so much time. I don't know how long we've talked about this, but I feel like I'm really grateful for your time and the space here and talking about and like uplifting all these other people who are part of this action and kind of talking about these issues and why they're important.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot going on in my life too, but I wanted to make sure to take some time for this. I meant to get some of you on last Friday, when I was covering this, and I just kind of the coordination wasn't quite there to make that happen. But I'm so glad that I got to have a conversation with you, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future. God, and like God, I don't know what to say to you. I can only imagine the kind of stuff that you've been through. Having to hold, like, I know how toxic that chat gets, and I can only
Really
imagine,
toxic. You
like,
talked about hate raids, and there's just like, and Adrian talked about bots, the sex bots, and there's just so like, there's literally, I could just tell you stories. I could just go on and on about how much we've seen and how much we've been through and how much we've experienced and what we had to do together just to be functional. Like, we had to be incredibly professional. We had to like build this from the ground up. And also, I want to shout out Goddess Four Winds. I don't know if I want to just, if I can, just shout out the names. I don't,
yeah,
like,
if you
thank
want
you
to,
for the shout out in chat, but I want to read the names here that are part of this collective
well, if
action.
any of them
before
have
I
Twitch streams,
go.
we can do that kind of
Yeah,
Twitch shout
totally.
out. But
I
yeah, go
wanted
ahead
to
and
just
read their names.
Myself is at the beginning of the thing, but I really do want to say that this was a collective action. This was all of us, and there are more people that are not on this list that I'm not sure about the editing and things like that just have made decisions later. So I just want to read these out. They're not myself. Lindsay Robb, that goes by Left Leaning Lindsay on Twitch. All one word, Left Leaning Lindsay. Lindsay Robb. Adrian Vixen, who's here in chat. Roller Dragon, who moderates on the Surfs TV. Goddess Four Winds, who, again, is another person who was a community member with, I'll go on about them more. Forbzilla, who was who I spoke about earlier, who made that and wrote quite a lot of the letter and just has been so brave through all. I mean, just like amazing and just stronger than me in a lot of ways. Zero PE. I didn't really know Zero PE all that well, but what I knew of them, I really like and admire, and especially that they were part of this. That's amazing. Jonathan Ross is here in our chat right now. And again, I don't know John Ross as well as I would like, as much, but we're getting to know each other a lot more too and love them. John G, similar as before, and Spectrophonic. Spectrophonic also streams as Spectrophonic here on Twitch, DJs, and it's really cool too. So I would definitely want to give them credit.
Spectrophonic or Spectrophonic?
Spectrophonic, like the spectral.
Spectrophonic. Okay, I think I got it.
With an A.
Wait, did that actually? Oh god, it's on cooldown, isn't it? You have to wait 40 seconds.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that because this is a collective action,
and go ahead.
I was just, that's part of, I was like, okay, well, just one person decides one thing, and that's one thing, right? But if a lot of people are coming together and saying a lot of the same things and are feeling a lot of the same things and objecting to a lot of the same things, then it sort of makes a bigger statement in a way when those people all collectively walk away. And I didn't want this to be like seen as some other kind of betrayal, but I felt betrayed. I felt hurt. I felt like I really objected to a lot of these issues, and it's not just about the trans rights issue. There's about like policing and the unhoused, and I could go on and on. People have expressed issues to me about like characterizing indigenous people and things like that, and I just don't want to see them go into further down this direction that they've gone. And I feel like if there's going to be even any kind of hope for I don't even really, we've already resigned, so there's not really like a going back kind of thing. But I just hope that there's some kind of amends made. I love the demands that were kind of there, the 5 demands that Groove Dragon had said. I would love that if those things were to come true. That's what I've been asking for. I'm not really strong on Twitter. I'm newer to Twitter, and I only actually signed up for Twitter to do the Twitch pitch for TYT. Real facts. That's why I joined Twitter. I did not have a Twitter account before then. But now I've been actually tagging the Young Turks and saying, read the letter. Here's the letter. TYT mods quit. Will you read the letter? That's what I want. Read the letter. And they won't read the letter. And here it is Wednesday of the following week before Benny resigned. And you know what? Just kind of going back to Benny, when Benny left and said, I cannot take this anymore, in a way, and Benny doesn't want to be the center of everyone's, I mean, I don't know what Benny wants, right? But like, that's been really hard for her. And I haven't wanted to like add to that at all, even by saying like congrats or like whatever, and because that's even been, you know, a thing, right? But that inspired me. It said like, wow,
Yeah,
it
showed
felt
some
like
courage.
a hostile work environment.
Yeah, no, God, that's
For
gonna be a
her.
horrible. Like, so chat. Just to go back to this, like, this is a situation. If you're Benny, you don't agree with the way that the channel's going at all. You try to make your voice heard. You try to bring attention to this, and you're just not listened to at all. And then you hear your name being used to justify their positions as like somebody who is trans that is in the network, right? And that's the worst. That's getting just used like that. So
Yeah, so just we talked about from 2016 to 2023, and it's just been this really big swing. It's been a lot. It's been a long, and I was only moderator from, and I say only in a weird, maybe self-deprecating way, where it's like, I was, anyway, I was part of the community for a long time, and it's just kind of, and with the moderator team and everything, it's been a really long journey. And this has not been easy and for anybody. The network, and it's already suffered, and there's been changes to the network already, and I don't want to say anything about anyone else's decisions about why they made the decisions that they did, but I think part of the reason that there's not going to be any live shows for 2 channels on the network is partly due to there being no moderators to cover those channels for live chat. But live chat is really important. People expect live chat now, and live chat and having a popular and fun community where it is also entertainment value in and of itself. And being a moderator, you're kind of providing that entertainment value, and you're providing that community. We actually, at least I tried to kind of set an example of being like, when someone did a super chat, I would say, thank you for that super chat. When someone did a super sticker, I said, thank you for that super sticker.
Right.
When someone said, anything positive,
being as big of a chat as it is, there are certain things that like the moderators are going to be the only ones to catch, like both in terms of protecting the chat, protecting the community from stuff that you don't want there, and in terms of recognizing some stuff that's not getting encouraging people to like the stream. There's so many things that you do as moderators. Well, thank you for coming on, Vightingale.
Yeah, I've taken up a lot of your time. So again,
I'm glad we had this conversation.
I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.